Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of the CCS. We are super excited to be here today because we've got Lotus taking on Syndicate Sean's fan club, and I am Elsa the Queen. Super excited to be joined this week by Soren. Thank you for being here, Soren. And as we get ready for draft here, excited for another exciting week in CCS.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's week 3, I believe. So we are really getting into it. This is when the top teams really start rising to the top, and when we start seeing them start separating themselves from the pack. I do know we are going to be jumping pretty quickly into pick bands, and it looks like we're already getting started. First up on the board, it's Neferi band as well as an Urgot.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting the band started really quickly here, and those two picks right away show that these teams are really familiar, with what the other likes to do. Both picks that I believe have been picked by both of these teams at the very least. Nubly playing a lot of that Urgot so far this year. And so, with that, they have a little bit more data, obviously, to know what these other teams are doing so far. And yeah, I mean, both of these teams coming into this 1-1, so really trying to beef up their record as we approach playoffs. I mean, it's only 8 weeks in the regular season, so it's a short amount of a short amount of time, and those losses really do start to stack up for these teams if they come quickly here. And I'm not seeing the
Yeah,
draft. I
yeah,
don't.
I think we might be having a technical issue on our end, so we'll let production have that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, these are two incredibly good teams coming into this. They were kind of seen as two of the top three, top four championship contenders, including Aftermoon, who had an incredible game last week. Got Jungler of the Week for week number 2 after some incredible Fizz play. So that's going to be something that obviously both teams are going to be either looking to secure or maybe keep in the back pocket. But first wave of bans comes through. It's an Urgot, Xerath, and J4 coming out from Lotus. And over on the side of Syndicate, it's Neferi, Aura, and the Caitlyn ban, as both teams are prioing their bot lane ADCs right now.
Yeah, definitely. We got that Ezreal first pick, and then Ash, which definitely does well into that Ezreal because it's a strong laning pick. We'll see what they want to do alongside it. Usually, you would see a Seraphine as kind of being the premier bottom lane duo here, if that's something that Eudora does want to pick up. And yeah, it will be the Seraphine. So that's just really a classic combo with the Ash being able to hit the W, and then it procs the root for the Seraphine snare. And so, Ezreal is known as very shifty, sort of difficult to catch 80 carry champion. But when you do lock him down after that E has been used, this is going to be the combination to be able to do that with as far as laning prowess. So I would expect probably some support pick to come through here just so that there's not more bans coming off the board. And it does look like it will probably be the Karma pick up there, and that one is going to be locked in for the side of Lotus. And so we'll see what else they want to complement with that with. I would assume probably a jungler, and save their final picks for
Yeah,
mid
yeah,
and
and
top.
yeah, and I mean, Karma there obviously offers a lot of protection. Also, just builds really well into the Ezreal pick. A lot of range to put down some damage. Also, again, the shielding that Karma offers is going to help because you're absolutely right. That combination of Ashe and Seraphine is going to put out a lot of damage and be a very high pressure pick. We did get the Orianna in the mid lane. I think that's absolutely a fine pick. Orianna has consistently been one of the top heroes or top champions of the game. And I think she has a lot of play potential where she can just make an entire team fight orbit around her. And it's going to be matched by Victor. So two pretty high scaling mid laners for both teams here.
Yeah, it is interesting that they have saved the jungle picks. I think that kind of speaks to how, at the very least, Aftermoon likes to play a lot of these junglers that are not very traditional. We mentioned the Fizz, on the op.gg. We also see a lot of Talon play, Neferi, which was banned out, but definitely not afraid to go with some of these less than traditional options. So excited to see, what that last pick ends up getting saved for here. If you are Sean's fan club, I assume that they're probably going to end up saving it for top lane still here. But we will just have to wait and see as we go through these second round of bans. And I mean, I think it's worth noting, coming into this league, we saw Lotus winning the lock in. And so I think that that makes them really the de facto favorite, I guess, coming into the rest of the tournament. We also saw that last week Lotus was against Dorado Iota, which is one of the other kind of top ranked teams in this tournament. They were able to come away with a victory, even in a close match there, 2-1. So they're definitely riding high right now for Lotus. I would expect them to kind of be the favored team in this. And so excited to see if they can set the pace here as we go into this last few rounds of picks. You can see that Fizz Jungle will be taken off the board.
Yeah, not surprising because again, like you said, had a really good matchup last week against a really high caliber team and had a performance on that Fizz that was so dominant that it got their jungler, that jungler of the week. So not too surprised to see that. Obviously, that does mean that what is left is jungle and top lane for both teams, which is why we're seeing that Pantheon, Trundle, Nocturne, and Fizz to close out the second wave of bans. A lot of prioritization right now, especially towards that jungle. Obviously, trying to deny a little bit of that playmaking potential for the side of Lotus, bending away that Nocturne and the Fizz. Makes me wonder what we're going to see. And it looks like they're going to be hovering the Olaf after they pick up the Xin Zhao themselves. And yeah, okay, Xin is going to make an appearance as well as Olaf.
Right, yeah, very interesting to see the Olaf lock in. If it is jungle, we haven't necessarily seen a ton of Olaf jungles recently, and seems like it will be that into the jungle and the Scion top lane being locked in for Goomba there. So we'll see. Nubly can do whatever he wants. Yorick is open, which is kind of his other main played champion, but it really seems like they're probably Lotus is kind of playing into that potential pick here. Just because they only banned the Urgot, definitely could have banned another one of Nubly's top laners that they wanted. That Trundle, I would assume, probably was a top lane ban, or I guess jungle as well. But Trundle would have been done really well into Scion. So if they wanted to take a tank here, oh, okay. And so they could decide to, they don't go for the Yorick. Instead, they take it in a different direction with the Darius. So really exciting champion here from Nubly. But it's definitely kind of a feast or famine scenario here in the top lane.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I do actually like that pick a lot, even though I probably would have been looking for something with a little bit more tankiness behind him. Obviously, Darius is no slouch, but it's definitely seen more of a bruiser type. However, it does give them a lot of early game pressure, and I think that's kind of what this side was lacking. Obviously, Zhao is able to do a little bit, especially that early to mid game. But when you're looking at that Ashe, that Seraphine, as well as Victor, they are very much looking towards late. And if they did not have something like the Darius to kind of balance it out and give them some say in that early game, they may have struggled if they followed behind or if they lost some of those first team fights. So I actually think it's really good. As for Lotus, I mean, I think it's pretty good all around. Olaf is another feast or famine champion that can just absolutely dominate a game or can absolutely hide away if they don't get a lead. So I could see that going either way. But this is Aftermoon, who just got the Jungler of the Week prize. So who knows? Probably leaning towards them having a pretty good performance on Olaf, regardless.
Yeah, and I mean, with it, when it's Olaf, we're always going to look for those early ganks. Olaf is able to do the first clear really quickly and try to look for some innovative pathing, surprising the enemy team. And I definitely think that either of the side lanes is an excellent candidate for being able to gank here. We know that it's going to be a really, really tough early lane, both in top and bot lane. So it'll be just kind of a question of where Aftermoon wants to prioritize. But overall, this team composition is a very team fight oriented comp. They've got the Oriana, the scaling mid lane mage. You've got multiple very good ball carriers in both the Scion as well as the Olaf. So going to be looking for Lotus. They want to get through the early part of this game and just kind of be as stable as they possibly can and get into those later team fights where they can fight front to back, which is what this team composition really wants to do. So that's really what Lotus is going to be looking for, just as much stability as they can possibly bring in the early game.
Yeah,
For
absolutely. And I mean, we're going to take a look at Syndicate here as well. This is also another team, very different in style. This is definitely more of a poke rather than a front to back composition, with the obviously exception of that Darius and Zinzao. But this is also a composition that's going to want to go late. And the biggest worry for me for Lotus is the fact that this, I believe, is a team that probably scales a little bit better. So while both teams are going to want to go late, I still think the team that wants to end it quicker will be the Lotus roster because the scaling potential here is absolutely insane. Obviously, Victor has the um, one of the highest skill ceilings in the game, as well as just one of the highest ceilings when it comes to just natural stacking and natural scaling. He can absolutely decimate if you allow him and give him space to operate. But also, I mean, Ash is going to scale well and is going to be a menace pretty early on. And Seraphit, obviously, just massive AoE abilities that are going to scale well into that late game as well. That will set up for both the Ash and Victor. So I think it's really good drafts from both sides here. I would probably lean Syndicate a little bit because I do like that early game pressure that Darius is going to bring. But if Darius doesn't get a good control of that top lane, I could see this side struggling very early.
Yeah, I agree with you about the Darius kind of part of the scenario. He really needs to get ahead early to be able to make a difference. If he gets into a situation where he's not able to pressure the Scion 1v1 in the lane, it's kind of like, why are you even here to begin with? Because he's going to struggle in the team fights, especially against something like Ezreal Karma, which has a pretty good ability to just kind of kite him out, even Oriana as well with the speed ups. So it's going to be about Nubily's ability to dominate this early game for sure. If you are Syndicate in this game, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how it turns out on both sides, and this game will really set the tone, I think, for this series.
Yeah, and I think the big matchup here to look out for is going to be these junglers. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Aftermoon being the jungler of the week, but also for the side of Syndicate, not important, I believe, is also known as Lost, and they are a massive name. They very well seasoned name with a lot of experience and a lot of wins under their belt. So, I mean, both of these junglers are going to have a very big say, especially because they are both pretty solid late game compositions, which means there's going to be a lot of eyes on those junglers to constantly be moving around the map. You mentioned Olaf having to have really good early ganks. That's going to have to remain true. Obviously, Zinzao also probably closer to that mid game. But so much of the playmaking potential is going to have to go through those two for both of these teams. So that is kind of the key matchup, in my opinion. That's where we're going to have to constantly be checking in on to see which team is not just in the lead, but is looking to take the lead and hold it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be that early game jungle pathing is definitely going to be something to watch for. Xinjiao should be probably. Well, I'm not sure actually. I'm not honestly not even sure just because it's been a while since I've seen a ton of Olaf jungle. How strong both of these junglers are early on. So yeah, I mean, we'll just kind of end up having to see here if they end up pathing the same direction on the map or the opposite direction. Either way, I definitely expect some early action from the junglers.
Yeah, I still think Olaf is incredibly strong. I believe he is still one of those like high feast or famine. Definitely not seen nearly as much. I kind of see him more as like a pocket pick when someone knows they can run the Olaf well, and has the knowledge in their brain to actually operate him at a high level. He could absolutely dominate. But if you come in, giving it 50-50, or if you have just a poor matchup, which I don't think this one is, I think this is actually a pretty split matchup if I remember correctly. It can go very very well very quickly if you have the knowledge behind it to really make it work.
Yeah. Well, I think we can go to a short break here before we get into the first game, but excited to see how it turns out.
Alrighty, we are getting underway here. First game of the night. If you are just now joining us, it is Lotus versus Syndicate, two top tier teams in this league. Two teams that are expected to be in top 3, top 4 conversations, championship conversations. Elsa, what are we seeing as we see these two teams roll out here?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like we talked about in the Champion Select, really excited to see what these junglers decide to do with their early game pathing. So we already see some wards being set down to try to get some information. Wards.
The range here, at least the range advantage early, is going to go over to this Victor, though not wrong, because Orianna obviously has a decent amount of range to her. Early game fighting, though, it looks like there's a little bit of damage onto the Ezreal, but overall, I actually think that this blue side got a little bit of the better end of those early trades, as there's some significant damage to both the Ashe and the Seraphine.
Definitely, and we see these junglers that looks like they are going to be pathing in opposite directions here. So the Xin Zhao pathing towards top, whereas Olaf coming down towards the bottom side. And you can see, I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but Olaf definitely has a pretty big advantage as far as the early clear, already on the 4th camp, whereas Xin Zhao hasn't even made his way to the other side of the map yet. So that's something to note. On the top side as well, you can see, I mean, Darius should be able to zone Sion off of a lot of these minions, which is what he has done so far. So I'm interested to see how many of these that Guba can take when the wave crashes into the turret, just kind of the last hitting. See how well he can do that here. He looks like he will be able to pick up the majority of them and will be even early on in this lane with the Darius. So that's definitely a win if you are Goomba in this lane. But as far as the bot lane here, so far, pretty even. Not seeing any massive leads. And so it looks like it probably will be up to that jungle intervention to get us our first action. We're going to get it.
Yeah, and I mean, with that very fast clear from the Olaf, that is going to mean they get a little bit of advantage on this bottom side, a little bit of pressure. Scuttle is going to be spawning here in just a couple of seconds, and actually, looks like Olaf is going to forego it and get a little bit of an early recall. So it is going to be the one Scuttle, so possibly still the one, but no, it looks like Olaf is actually just going to go back mid. So Olaf just trying to help out that bot lane and will forego the Scuttle in response. Meanwhile, top side, we finally see Sion get a little bit of a grasp of their lane, pushing Darius out from under. As it looks like Xin Zhao is going to make their way up and maybe get an opportunity on the Sion, who is really far forward. Moobly's going to have to survive this, getting low, but first blood goes over to the Sion. Massive pick for Gar, but you'd imagine not Boris is going to be able to clean this up. Yes, they will, and should be able to get away without taking too much damage. Balter Moon now in the area as well. Olaf, very fast, very high damage, and it is going to cost a Flash to get out with their own lives.
Yeah, and you could see how Goomba knew that he was dead, but he forced Xin Zhao to run up the lane to chase him, hoping that his jungler would be able to win that fight, which he definitely would have, but unfortunately not important, just flashing over the wall. But I would say, given the gank there, it's a pretty big win for the Sion. Darius is not the one who's able to pick up the kill gold, so for Nubly, that is not how he would want it to go. So as we can see the replay here, I mean, Nubly's just already really low. He definitely needs to prioritize making sure that he can get that Q earlier on here so that he can get the healing to survive. But it's not enough, too little, too late. And 1 for 1 in a gank is not ideal if you are the side of Syndicate.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really smart play coming out from Lotus. I mean, you talked about how it was really smart play from the Sion to kind of bring it back closer to the lane to allow time for that Olaf to close the gap. But the fact that they were communicating so well that Olaf immediately knew to be in that area to capitalize and help kind of balance out that fight in the end. A lot of teams would not do that, where they wouldn't quite hit the same and they might not get that trade in the end. So the fact that they're able to take that moment where the Sion knows that they're going to fall and get some opportunity to, close that gap that's going to form. Very smart play from them. But we do see first couple objectives spawning on the map, notably that Drake, and it is going to be the Ocean Drake to start us off.
Yeah, and so with Guar Goomba now hitting level 6, first, you can just see that this Scion is just feeling way more comfortable than he should be able to in this top lane. And we talked about how important it was going to be for Nubili to be able to get an early lead for pressure in this lane, and that's just not something that he's been able to achieve at this point. So that's a little bit rough if you're the side of Syndicate, because later in the game, Scion is always going to be the champion that has far more utility. It's going to show up better in the team fights. And all that jazz. And I mean, we talked about also how stability in the early game overall would be a win for Lotus, because they have these, less lane-oriented picks here, both in the top and bottom. But so far, that is treating them just fine. I mean, the gold is even right now, but I would kind of treat that basically as a win for Lotus at this point. There's a little bit of a CS lead in the bot lane, but, being equaled out by that gold from the top end jungle. As not important, is able to do a little bit of an invade there in response to the dragon being taken, but overall not that big of a deal. Just losing the blue buff is aftermoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that first Drake was secured there by the side of Lotus, so they're going to have a little bit of extra healing built in, which is definitely going to help that Scion out, especially as we get later into the game and he becomes more and more of that raid boss that we know him to be. And notably, like you said, it didn't really cost all that much to secure the Drake without too much competition. This mid lane, we have not seen all too much of. A little bit of come down when the Drake was finishing, but besides that, they have kind of just stuck to themselves in this mid space and have traded waves back and forth, which is probably a really good move for both these sides. I mean, just handshaking away two really powerful playmaking AP mages that are just going to be menaces in the late game. I think both teams and both mid laners are happy to just say, we're going to let each other farm, but we'll have the opportunity later to have a say, because we might have a bit of a drag here. Oh, Crispy stunned up. Oh, does get hit by that Encore. Has to dash away and is going to be able to dodge out of some of those more deadly moves. Takes a lot of damage, but they do not secure the kill onto the ADC.
Yeah, and it is going to cost all the summoner spells, but Ezreal doing a really nice job of saving the Arcane Shift for the right moment there, even after he got hit by the Encore. As well as the Frost Shot. So pretty impressive that they were able to survive, and a good job, I guess, by Syndicate Sean's fan club of not diving too deep on that one. But they will now be vulnerable for the next, 5 minutes minus whatever time has passed. So wouldn't be surprised if Xin Zhao pays another visit down there, just because of how much gank setup and CC follow-up they do have. And so with that, though, the boy grubs are going to go over to the blue side. They have control over that top side of the map with Scion pushing in. So nice for Aftermoon to have some cover as they set that one up. And now you can see that Karma, well, both supports have roamed over to this top side of the map. It is just going to be ADC versus ADC in the bot lane. And, I mean, Karma's going to have to get down there eventually, I guess, because it looks like Seraphine headed back down after this red buff is stolen. They were potentially trying to set up some kind of play on Not Important, but he is wise enough to not fall for that one.
Yeah, especially when they do not have information on that support pair as well, as you mentioned. Take a look at the gold, though. Nothing standing out in terms of it being too crazy for one side or another. But we have to take into account the fact that now both of the early jungle objectives have been secured by Lotus. That's going to give them a nice bit of advantage early on. But we are seeing a pretty clear difference in how these teams are kind of taking the map and operating around it. A lot of vision and a lot of control on that top side with blue. Ooh, as we see a massive gank, and you said how vulnerable they're going to be for the next couple of minutes, and they say, yeah, we know, and we're going to take advantage of it, as that is the second kill for the side of Syndicate, drawing first blood in a couple minutes now as they find the ADC.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important as, all right, we're getting a potential all-in the top lane. As we check out the replay, Ezreal had already used the Arcane Shift there, so it's just really, really easy point-and-click stuff. for a conveyable cub to be able to hit the enchanted crystal arrow, and then from there it's just all the follow-up. So I mean, at this point Ezreal has fallen a little bit behind. Is a little over 20 CS behind. Of course, he's just kind of trying to stack that tier, not trying to hit a power spike right at this point anyway. But you definitely don't want that to be too, his kind of mid-game power spike to be too delayed. So that'll be something to keep our eyes on if it's something that they're able to continue punishing, because they could even potentially get one more gank in down there before Ezreal's flash comes back up. You can still see it's got about a third of the cooldown remaining here, and Eudora will have that encore available once again. So that's something to watch for here in this bot lane. If I'm Crispy, definitely asking my own jungler to be in the area here to make sure that it does not happen again. Which, you know, as you can see, Aftermoon is going to be in that area with the dragon spawning now. They would like to continue that stack if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're happy to stay in the area. That means they're going to be able to secure this Drake. Notably, first item of the map is completed. It's in the hands of this Victor. So yeah, they're going to be willing to fight this as 4 members from Syndicate are coming in. It is going to be a race. They do secure the Drake, but it might cost them their lives as Syndicate come and sweep up 2 of them and forces the flash out of the other 2. They are going to get away with just 2 members left standing, but they get the Drake in the end. I don't know. I think Syndicate may have gotten the better trade, continuing to put down these individual members of Lotus.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that, especially considering it's just the second dragon here, we'll check out the replay. You know, they're just totally cornered into this dragon pit, and you can see it just makes it, it's like for Eudora, it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. Actually, only manages to hit 1 in follow-up to conveyable cub. Thankfully, Flash is available to get over the wall for other members. It looks like Strawberry Moon also had the flash. Probably would have liked to see the Orianna just you know, jump ship over the wall right away. Actually, yeah, they maybe all could have just flashed over the wall if they decided to do that. But instead, they maybe thought that they could take the fight, but it's just so clear, you know, with that really, really strong engage from both ultimates of the bot lane members that was not going to happen. So, and now finally a gold lead manifesting in this game, a little over 2K gold lead in favor of Syndicate Sean's fan club. So we talked about how you know, that stability in the early game is good for Lotus, but definitely kind of breaking down in that fight, and we can see the consequences of that. Of course, they do want to get, you know, to the point where everybody's got at least 1 item built up. We get into those sort of team fight scenarios where they can fully unleash the combos that they have at their disposal with the Orianna. We're not quite at that point in the game here, 30 minutes in, but probably in about 5 more minutes, you know, that's when they really would like to hit their power spike if they're able to continue gathering resources unabated.
Yeah, absolutely. Notably here, looking at the current state of the game, obviously we do have our soul. It is going to be a Hextech soul to play around, one of the stronger, and is definitely going to be a massive boon. I think we're either of the ADCs, but I definitely think Ashe is probably going to get a little bit more out of that soul. So expect to see a lot more pressure towards these Drake fights from Syndicate, as we see maybe a little bit of a wet noodle fight. Noobly sticking around, does have not important coming through, but I don't know if they're going to full send this fight. No, they are not. They are just going to space him out onto the turret, and just gonna be just a little bit of present from that jungler, which means that the Olaf is gonna have free reign elsewhere on the map if they would like to make a play.
Yeah, and that is definitely not what you want to see, that Noobly is able to get his entire passive off on, the most stacks of his passive off on Goomba, and it still isn't even breaking through the TP shield. So it kind of just goes to show how tanky already this Scion is early in this game, and it does become questionable at what point Olaf, or rather Darius, he definitely needs to pick up at least 1 item, which I assume he must be holding on to a decent amount of gold at this moment. Yeah, he's going back to the base now, so we'll see if he's able to pick up that Stride Breaker, which is what I assume that he'll build first. At that point, maybe can try to be a little bit more aggressive here, but a possible team fight setup.
Yeah, it's a 2v3, not important. Taking a lot of damage though, but here comes Conveyable Cub. Can They find something. Crispy taking a lot of damage, but here comes Olaf in the back as Olaf finds the Seraphine. Make another Zinzao falls, and now suddenly this fight looks very winnable. But now back and forth. Shib's taking a lot of damage. Oh, Conveyable finds another. Can they find a fourth here? Yep, they might be able to clean it up. No, Crispy finally able to do something. Sion coming in, Train coming in from downtown. Are they going to find Sean? Yes, they will. It is an absolute massacre on mid. But in the end, I think it goes the way of Lotus. I think they get one more kill than Syndicate. But that does still mean that there's still a 2-kill lead for Syndicate.
Yeah, it was a 4 for 3, I believe, overall, and Lotus does get to continue pushing out, so they destroy that mid lane turret. But we saw at the beginning of that fight how powerful Olaf is with the one Hextech item here, which activates when he hits his ultimate, and he's just unstoppable at that point, be able to just totally rampage through Eudora, who tried to use the ultimate to save himself, but the CC invulnerability was still on for Olaf, so the Encore just kind of falls on flat ears, I guess. And now with this third dragon spawning, we might just have more team fight action right away.
Yeah, a lot of presence. I said Syndicate, we're definitely going to want to fight for this. We have that Hex Portal coming through to get a little bit of a flank. Teams engaging in. We have to jump in. Sion might be able to get multiple. No, only finds the one. It's 1-for-1 trade right now as there's chaos in the jungle. Moobly tries to hunt down some of the back line as there's just so much health to whittle down from the Sion. They are eventually going to force away Lotus. Goomba has to be careful here. Is starting to get low, and instead of going for the Drake, they're going to go chasing for the kills. Encore comes through, finds Strawberry Moon. There they fall, and now it is just a 2v3. But do they have the damage to get through the Scion's health? I don't know. No, they're just going to push it. They're going to find that kill. TP coming in from Sean to get back into the action quickly. And it is going to be, what, a 1 for 4? And they're going to get the Drake out of it. That is a massive coup for Syndicate.
Yeah, this is a huge team fight win for Syndicate. The setup was just not nearly as clean as it was the first time for Lotus. And you could see how finally in this fight, Darius, although he didn't pick up any of the kills, does start to affect the team fight a lot more. Able to at least do a lot of damage with his first use of the ultimate there, and then also getting the grab on multiple members, as we'll see in a moment here. But Goomba just not really quite right in the middle of the team where he needs to be right at first. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, outside of that, you could just see how not important also is able to use his ultimate on Jin Zhao to shield out a lot of the damage coming through from Crispy and Strawberry Moon. And from there, they're able to just kind of remain as a death ball. Also, I was wondering that, looking at it again, Strawberry Moon just not able to find a good ultimate early on in this fight. And so using it later on, but when the fight is just already totally done, and Crispy, this whole time trying to do what he can, but just never has the front line in the right position for the Ezreal to move up to where he wants to be. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely huge, especially just from the standpoint of Syndicate, Sean's fan club trying to stop the Drake stacking, because Lotus getting the third Drake there would put them in a really position to get a pretty early Hextech Soul here, which would be really impactful, but instead, now the stacking just 2-1 as far as the dragons.
Okay, Sion goes through, ultimate going wide, but puts them right where they want to be as they are able to stop the Seraphine from backing away, and that is going to be yet another death for this Seraphine, who's being targeted pretty heavily. But it does come in a trade. That top tier 1 does fall. And notably, after Moon, after respawning, just leaves the Drake to themselves and does pick up the first Rift Herald. So that is something that happened in the background as we see the replay here. Yeah, it doesn't get hit by the Sion ult, but it doesn't matter when Sion is suddenly on top of the very non-mobile support.
Yeah, and now we can see that the Rift Herald being dropped is going to pick up the turret in the bot lane. Oh, but Strawberry got hit.
Okay, immediate fighting again. One member down already, and Olaf doing Olaf things. Will he out-survive it? No, the sustainability is just not there. And now the cleanup coming out from Syndicate. Strawberry Moon having to flash away. Is going to be able to get out with their lives, though. They are being fully chased, though. I don't think they're going to have the movement speed to catch up with the Oriana. No shot. Okay, they're going to force them all the way back to base.
Yeah, and I mean, it just seems like Lotus did not need to fight that. I mean, perhaps they maybe could have been able to back off after Strawberry Moon comes in with the Rift Herald here. I mean, yeah, they're just like right point blank at it using it, so it's kind of an interesting use to begin with. Yeah, and at this point, I just think once Strawberry Moon gets hit, Aftermoon just needs to let him die instead. Trying to come through and make the play, which initially he does, but then just leaves him in a position where he has Olaf. The only way to go is further forward and does not have the numbers to be able to fight, especially with Ezreal forced to be sitting mid, clearing the wave against Darius, so they did not have the AD carry with them. And with that, I mean, this gold lead has fluctuated a little bit. It's actually a little bit lower than it was before for Syndicate Sean's fan club, who's now just like about 1.5K ahead. But we're, now 21 minutes in. Baron has spawned on the map, so that is a possibility. And I guess, I am the one who said that the 5v5 team fights would be where Lotus would be able to thrive, but the first time that we saw that at the Dragon Pit was left quite a bit to be desired, so they're going to have to execute that a lot better as far as their ability to maybe kite back against this enemy team. It's just really, really difficult to kite back when there's such definitive engage on the other side between the Ashe and the Seraphine. Those are really, really the important abilities to track at the beginning of these team fights, is the Crystal and Arrow as well as the Encore. But we can see that Lotus is trying to stack up together 4 members sitting in this bush, but I don't know that anyone's going to walk into there. I mean, I guess it's just 30 seconds until Dragon, so maybe they will, but it seems like Sean's fan club is pretty aware of their lack of vision, and the Death Brush is going to be abandoned.
Yeah, we do see Crispy notably. Yeah, I was going to say, we don't have the direct line of sight as we see the engagement. Strawberry Moon is being left to die alone. That might come back to bite them as Darius is able to find the one pick. Olaf is starting to do Olaf things. He's able to find one response, but the Ashe is free firing on them. CC immune. Olaf running them down. Conveyable does find Aftermoon, but it doesn't matter. It's a one-for-one trade. Right now, 3v3 is what sustains, and can either team get the opportunity here? I just don't think there's enough damage, especially with how low Crispy is. They have to play it safe. Goomba is going to have to try to get away, but there is so much CC that I don't think they're going to let them. No, they will get that final pick, and that Scion after death form is just going to do a little bit of damage. It is chaotic. It is a, what is that, a 3 for 2 overall. Syndicate comes up again on the winning side, and they're going to get the Drake off that, so they're going to tie up the Drakes on 2 Hextex.
Yeah, and in this fight, really, my MVP has to actually be Sean, because he does such an amazing job of making sure that Crispy is never, ever able to participate in this fight. You can see how far away Crispy is from Conveyable Cub, just never able to get over there, even with the help of the Karma, trying to walk over. Gravity Field gets put down, and he has to flash away. So he's able to throw out Qs here and there, but just never, ever able to actually land auto attacks in this fight. And so without your AD carry really being able to become involved, this Ezreal has had a really hard time, and you can see how, yes, it takes a really long time to kill Goomba, but when the other enemy champions are just not able to be in the same area whatsoever, it doesn't really matter at all. And so the second dragon now of the game taken for Syndicate Sean's fan club, evening it up at 2 for 2. And that always just really hurts when you're the team that invested so much early game time and resources into stacking those early dragons. It now means that it's going to be quite some time, if ever, that Lotus would be able to pick up that soul. And, we now kind of have a little bit of a reset lull period here where everybody's just trying to get as many resources picked up as they can. And we were all excited for this Darius Soren, but it has not really mattered very much in this game either way. He's not having a huge game, but it doesn't seem like it's really necessary. at the clip that Sean's fan club is playing at right now.
I actually think a lot more of the game pressure has been coming out of this Xin Zhao. Darius did well to at least keep that top lane neutral in the end, but really has not done all that much sense. Though I will say, I think Syndicate is kind of getting helped out by Lotus in a way. And we talked about, I mean, you mentioned how the team fight potential for this Lotus side in this composition is probably going to be in their favor. And I think it should be. However, positioning for all of these fights has just been a little bit sketchy. Obviously, that first big fight I remember is in that Drake fight where they were all just fish in a barrel, and the positioning was not great, and they were stuck in that Drake pit, and they got picked off one by one. And then, unfortunately, Goomba just kind of gets isolated on the other side of the wall during the second big fight and is not able to protect the backline. And then in that last fight, on top of the spacing away of Crispy, as well as Shibs, who was just desperately trying to keep Crispy alive, very early on, they kind of used Strawberry Moon as a bait tactic, which means they lose Orianna, a big playmaker, really early on. So I think the positioning for this Lotus side has just been punished incredibly hard by Syndicate, which means they just haven't been able to get as much of a fight. So we do see them gonna at least start, maybe try to turn, but at least start this pair.
Yeah, Zion does have teleport to come up here if they wanted, but they do not have their mid laner, so definitely missing a good amount of damage. Both teleports will come through, so they're going to have to come off of the Baron.
A little bit of posturing here from both sides. The Baron is going to reset. It's just a little bit of poking coming out from the side of Lotus, which I do like, just to deter Syndicate from really investing. But again, positioning, I feel like they're going to get punished here. Olaf gets pulled in and is going to get melted away. And now it is the chase. Crispy not going to be given time to breathe or room to get away this time around. Goomba is being melted faster than they have before. And maybe try to find something in response. No, the target prioritization is just too good. And Sean's fan club is just running riot here in mid. They're going to take as much as they can in the mid lane, and now they're going to make their way back to Baron too.
Yeah, I mean, checking out this replay here, I mean, you said it, Soren, they're just really posturing around. We know that, you know, if you're Sean's fan club, you want to take any fight you can here because the Orianna is still dead, and Nubili doing his best utility Darius play here with the grab. You know, not actually picking up the kills here, but able to use that E really, really well to grab the enemy jungler in, and from there, yeah, they're really just able to mow down the rest of the members, which is what this team composition does really, really well, with the Seraphine being able to continually stick on people, the Ashe slowing you over and over again. And I mean, yeah, I mean, Syndicate Sean's fan club is in a really, really good spot now. They're like 8,000 gold ahead of the enemy team. In particular, this Orianna just really has not... I mean, actually both of the damage carries, the Orianna and the Ezreal, have never really found the right angles to be able to do something.
Okay, that's a big engage, and that's just a dead Olaf. Olaf is just gone.
Oh, the Nubili E again!
Oh, that is going to be the ADC down. That is rough, especially as the next Drake is up. And like you said, it's very sad to see that the Drake stacking lead vanishes, and now in the next couple of seconds we're gonna see it completely disappear as the lead is gonna go over to Syndicate. And Syndicate not gonna rest on their laurels, have that Baron buff, so they're gonna be dressed in purple and they're gonna look for this mid-tier 2, as now Lotus is just gonna have to concede it. They have very little control of this map left. This is looking worse and worse for Lotus as that gold lead just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger for the side of Syndicate.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it just looks really, really difficult at this point, as Aftermoon is just going to walk into a spot with no vision. And I mean, it's just not something that you can do at this point in the game because the rest of the team is so strong. Nubili able to flash over the wall. I believe finally picked... Oh, actually, no, he still did not pick up an actual kill. I don't understand how his ultimate didn't get the kill on Ezreal. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, who cares, right? When you're 10k up, it's all good. Yeah, exactly. And it's when it's going to your 80 carry, I suppose, as well. There he is. Look at how good he was farming those minions. Amazing.
He's holding it down. Hey, those grabs, those pulls are really important, man. Uh, no, but they are doing good. And like you said, at the end of the day, when the team's winning, it doesn't matter how you contribute when you are just finding success. It's not like he's making it more difficult for his team. In fact, he only has 2 deaths, so not even the most deaths on the roster, despite being the front line for this team. So Nubly doing a good job. And as I mentioned before, one of the biggest problems for Lotus, besides the gold lead and the 10 kill Ash, is the fact that they are very quickly running out of control and means of controlling this map. We are just seeing the Syndicate side just run through, walk through the enemy jungle with very little care in the world. That tier 2 on top side just gone. And it looks like they're going to put a little bit of pressure onto the tier 3. Maybe see if they can sneak that with this wave. They're going to do a little bit of damage to Gar Goomba, but I imagine that's just going to be some poke. As finally, we are going to see the Baron buff fade away. So not as much siege potential anymore, but man, Syndicate, Sean's fan club, definitely made it count when it mattered.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back and spend the money that they have here and then come back and try to siege one more time. I mean, if they win one more definitive team fight, they should just be able to run it up and win this game. Just 2.5. The objectives are pretty much sig tier, 2 really big objectives. So they will be able to kind of force the enemy team into a fight over one or the other. They're also in that situation where, because they are on the precipice of the Dragon Soul, Lotus cannot give up the dragon. Otherwise, it would be even more over than it already is. And so they're going to be forced here in about 2 minutes to respond to one or the other. We'll see how Syndicate Sean's fan club wants to kind of set up the rest of the siege, but I expect that for now they're just going to kind of control as much vision as they can on whichever side of the map they would like to prioritize as far as the objectives. And it looks like right now that is the bottom side trying to prioritize for the Hextech Soul, which is super, super powerful. And I mean, right now, if you're Lotus, you're basically just waiting for some kind of mistake from Syndicate Sean's fan club. Looks like they're going to try to get a pick on Nubly here if they can at their base.
Yeah, this is going to be very sketchy. Nubly being that utility player throughout the entirety of the map.
He's going to run and join his team.
And that's the Encore that's just going to doom the one member. He's just going to run across the face to safety. And now it's a 5v4 with the siege coming through. They need to hold the line. They have the wave to make it work. They're going to try to fly Gar Goomba, do a lot of damage in the process. Olaf having to back away. Nubly's 1v1ing Crispy. The damage is being done. One turn down. Gar Goomba has to run back to Fountain. This is going all the way for Syndicate as they have game 2 in sight. Afternoon needs to survive, is not going to be able to. Crispy dies in the back line, and that is gonna about just do it. Stunned up, dead. Gar Goomba falling one last time as the Nexus falls. That is going to be game number 1 going over to Syndicate Sean fan club.
Syndicate Sean's fan club with a pretty definitive win here in game number 1. It was a little bit, close early in the game, but once they took a lead, they absolutely ran with it. Definitely came off of the back of their bot lane on this Ashe and Seraphine combo, which, while it's, very well known for sort of its utility, ability to start fights, which they did use, also the damage behind it was huge in this game. And congratulations to Syndicate Sean, taking game 1 of this series. They'd love to see if they could just take it down in 2, if they can.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about going into this game that Lotus was looking really strong in last week, obviously after Moon getting Jungler of the Week, but they also took down, I believe you said, Dorado Iota, who is another one of these top-level teams that we're expecting to be in that championship competition. So we were saying, if this was going to be a week where they win against now Syndicate, that could kind of separate them from the pack, but Syndicate say, yeah, no, that's not us. You didn't beat us last week. We're going to give you a challenge and take this match. And kind of like you said, I don't dare to say dominant fashion, but definitely convincing fashion. They started a little slow, especially with that Scion being first blooded, or in the losing end of that first trade. But after that first fight, it was just Syndicate all the way. They were constantly either getting small wins, even if they lose, or just outright winning fight after fight after fight.
Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, I definitely think that if you are Lotus, you're feeling pretty worried here. I mean, they should be headed over to the red side. So I'm interested to see how they can use their counter pick, maybe something for the mid lane. It just really felt like they were not able to make the most out of their matchup there. So yeah, excited to see how they can turn it around here as we'll see a replay, I believe, here in a second, of kind of one of the critical fights in this game. And so breaking it down here, again, this was the third dragon. So this was right after we saw that more even fight that happened, I believe, over on the top side of the map here. And yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, again, looking at the kind of the key abilities, you would love for Strawberry Moon to be able to get in a position. I mean, right here, why can't they press
Yeah.
R right here? Definitely would have been potentially impactful. But instead, it just kind of seemed like After Moon was really the raid boss, I guess, for their team. Once the Olaf was dead in these fights, then it just kind of seemed like they were just getting run down from here. You know, Guargumba able to buy a decent amount of time, but not really buying time for any damage to be dealt. Yeah, so because we can see how far away the rest of the carries are, while Guargruba tries to buy space in these fights.
Yeah, and I one thing that I really think is that Gargumba obviously did a good job at just tanking a lot of damage, but I think the biggest problem was also the fact that while they tanked a lot of damage, they didn't really impose themselves on a lot of these fights. They were just kind of a big meat shield that absorbed that damage, which is good, but then like you said, when you don't have the Olaf to kind of follow in, either be that first or second man to also do that follow-up damage to get some value of that extended fight, it just means that you just have someone tanking damage while the rest of your team is kind of getting run over in the back line. I mean, we saw in that fight, the moment the Olaf went down, Nubili just ignored Gargumba, just completely walked past them and jumped onto the back line to space them out. So I definitely think maybe compositionally we need to see a couple of changes. And also, frankly, I just think positioning is a lot better from Lotus between game one and game two. I think they definitely made some critical errors just in their own macro play that can be ironed out. Game number 1 is in the books. Now all eyes are forward to game number 2, and we are already in the midst of it, Elsa. We already have the first wave of bans looking very similar, I believe, actually completely identical to the first games. And of course, we do have Fearless. So any champions that were used in game number 1 are not going to be available for game number 2, as we see a very common theme of ADCs being picked up first.
Yeah, and Sivir being picked up, it is the top played champion for Crispy, at least as it comes to solo queue. So definitely happy to take that team fight oriented champion. Also has some good things to be able to spell shield away from that Varus, which is a pretty popular ADC pick recently, especially with kind of the static Shiv builds that we often see alongside it. But the Fizz, which is something that we saw ban, I believe that was the one switch in bans from the previous one. I think Nocturne was banned in the second round the other time. So Fizz will be able to come through. We assume that that one will go to Aftermoon in the jungle. So we're excited to see them kind of break the glass in case of emergency for that pick now that they had it open this time. Also interested to see kind of what they decide to pair alongside that as well. But for Syndicate Sean's fan club, Rek'Sai coming through, which is an pick that we don't see a lot of normally right now at all. So I'm very interested to know, curious whether or not, for not important, that is kind of a counter pick to the Fizz or just something that they've been cooking up. But Rek'Sai, yeah, not one that I've seen in a while.
Probably a little bit both. I mean, if you are the side of Syndicate, you have to know that this Fizz is going to be a problem. Obviously, it was already in the ban list, so you gotta expect that they are planning around it or having some idea of what they want to do. We do have Tom Kench. You can't bench the Kench, and he's gonna make an appearance here as well, which I think is also gonna be interesting. Gonna offer a lot of utility as well as just survivability with how tanky he can be. I believe that's also a flex. I don't know if he's usually paired down the bot lane with something like a Varus, but I could see where the value can come from. But obviously can also make their way up to the top side, as that is going to be a Bard getting picked up. So a little bit of aggressive bot lane there between Sivir and Bard, but also a lot of roaming. So that Sivir is going to be left alone for quite a long time this game, you'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Bard is always a really exciting champion to watch, as you kind of alluded to. Soren does a lot of roaming around the map. I do expect for this Tom Kench to probably go into the support role. It's very strong at being able to save the Varus if he gets hit by that Fizz ultimate, as well as just in general, because the Varus, it will be that immobile AD carry champion. But as the bans roll through here, seeing as predictably, bans towards these solo lanes, because it seems like solo laners are the ones that have been the last to stand here so far, haven't been picked. And so we'll have to see if Lotus decides to save that last pick for the top lane or the mid lane. If you're going to pick something like Scion again, which obviously they can't pick exactly Scion, but if you're going to pick something like that, then you probably, it's not worth saving for that last pick. But otherwise, if they're going to pick if they're trying to for something that more of a carry oriented champion, they might consider waiting. And for Nubali, we talked about the Yorick in the first game. That one is still open. So could potentially go in that direction, as a blind pick if he does need to blind here, but it's all going to depend on what we see from this fourth lock-in, and it looks like it probably will be that top lane for the final pick, since Cassiopeia being hovered. If that one's locked in, it would be for the mid lane most likely.
Yeah. Oh, RA2 would be a pretty
Okay.
good pick. Obviously,
Definitely.
AP Burst Mage has a lot of mobility, has a lot of means of helping support by roaming, which I definitely would like to see a little bit more out of from Lotus. Obviously, they had the Oriana, but for a lot of that early game, Oriana and the Victor just kind of sat in that mid lane, and again, just kind of hand shook away a lot of those waves and just kind of traded damage throughout. So that already makes me think that they're maybe looking to have a little bit more presence from their mid laner around the map, especially for early ganks, as it is going to be an Alistair, which means that is almost certainly going to be Alistar and Varus down on that bot side, and that
Yep.
is going to be a Tom Kench up on the top. Eudora is going to be the player to pick this final champion. You'd imagine this is going to be the mid lane. Galio, I think, is actually a really good pick. Obviously has a lot of presence around the map with that triumphant entrance. Also, just going to be a really good brick wall to kind of keep this Ari in check. And Zahen is looking to maybe make an appearance up on top side.
Yeah, I mean, this composition from Syndicate Sean's fan club is definitely the bouncy castle composition here between the Alistar, Galio, and Rek'Sai. You can get so many knockups one on top of the other. Galio definitely, I mean, and the Tom Kench as well, as it will be the Zahen locked into the top lane. I would imagine it probably has a pretty good matchup into the Tom Kench, but it's kind of going to be a question of how far ahead can you get for Goomba and whether or not it will actually be that relevant later in the game. I'm also interested to see for the Tom Kench if it's a situation where he's going to go full tank, or he could pivot after a tank item and go for Dusk and Dawn. We've seen some of those kind of auto attack focused Tom Kench builds as well. Yeah, I mean, we can see Sean's fan club right now in the prediction sitting at 60%, which I believe is kind of a flip of what happened in the first fan prediction. So, we've got the popular opinion shifting a little bit here away from Lotus after they fell in that first game. And again, looking at this team composition for Sean's fan club, the one thing that I will note here, this is a really short range composition. They only have one range champion in the Varus. Outside of that, they've got all melee champions. So they really will need to get on top of and stick on top of the enemy team. But they do have a lot of tools to engage between Rek'Sai, Alistar, Galio. They've also got the Varus ultimate and the Tom Kench W as well. So they've got lots of ways to get into the middle of the enemy team. But if they are not able to do that, it's really easy to kite out this composition. So that's what we'll be looking at from Sean's fan club, is how clean are these engages able to be.
Yeah, this is what I would call a protect the president composition. A lot of engage tools, but also just a lot of peeling tools to help that Varus. So, like you said, is kind of the big range on this team, and you'd imagine probably going to be where majority of the damage comes from. So it is going to be on a lot of these tanky frontline members to not just be the engage tools for the Varus, but also be conscious of the positioning so they could constantly come back and peel for the Varus, especially when you have Lotus having that composition that is just so good at diving in and putting a lot of pressure onto the back line. So a lot of eyes are going to be on the Varus to see if they can keep up in terms of damage, but you're always going to I'm mainly going to be looking at that Tom Kench and the Galio. Obviously, I know the support is Alistar, but with that triumphant entrance as well as the eat from the Tom Kench, they are just two abilities that are going to constantly have to be used to protect that Varus and keep them in the fight for a longer period of time, which they did do a very good job of in game number one of kind of protecting that back line. So I'm not surprised to see the fan vote swaying because Syndicate looked really good. If there was a team in this matchup that was going to make this composition work, it's going to be Syndicate Sean Fan Club.
Yeah, and on the other side for Lotus, we do see some kind of similarities, I guess, to the composition that they ran in the last game, in that they definitely can 5v5 team fight with this composition. They have the Sivir, which wants to sit with the rest of the team, be able to speed everyone up with the ultimate. And so that's going to be, that's going to be kind of what I would expect. But they also have a lot of a huge, actually looking at it as well, they do have a lot of pick potential with this team composition. Bard able to catch people out from far away. You've got the Ari who's able to come on flank angles, as well as the Fizz who loves to, sit in the fog of war and be able to get the fish off in advantageous positions. So I'm going to be looking for Lotus to run this a little bit more like a team or like a pick composition, and find members of Syndicate Sean's fan club out of position. That's going to be the name of the game for Lotus.
Yeah, a lot of skirmishes, just skirmishes all throughout the map. If they are like they can 5v5, but I think you're absolutely right. They are going to want to isolate one, like 2v1s, 3v1s, 3v2s. The name of the game for them is just constantly having that man advantage so they could try to take an angle, which means we're probably going to see a lot of roaming from this side. I think we're really going to see it kind of unlock once the laning phase comes to an end and we get a little bit more of that team fighting era where we have teams having the posture around Drakes. But you'd also imagine Syndicate are going to be very aware of that. So Syndicate, I already said that the very heavy protected president composition, that's where it really does come true, because if they leave that Varus alone for any given period of time, there can very quickly be a Bard, a Fizz, or an Ari on top of the Varus who just does not have the mobility to get away.
Yeah, excited to see how it plays out here.
Yeah, absolutely. But with all that being said, I believe we do still have spectator delay to go through. So when we are back, we are going to be getting right underway with game number 2, but that will be in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. Game number 2 getting underway here between Syndicate Sean's fan club and Lotus. Syndicate Sean's fan club getting, I think, a little bit of an upset win in game number 1, at least according to the fan vote. But both these teams, high caliber rosters that we're expecting to go far into this competition. I mean, we do see a couple notable changes compositionally, notably Syndicate picking up the Protect the President composition. Elsa, what are we expecting to see, at least early on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on in this game, I'm really not super familiar with the general play patterns of a Fizz jungle, but you can see that Aftermoon does take the Ignite, no flash, super aggressive. And so, you usually think of an Ignite as an early game summoner spell in general, so I would expect him to try to become involved in these lanes. There is a gank assist in every, in at least 2 of the lanes. Well, I guess really 3 of the lanes. So, expecting to see the Fizz be active early on. Rek'Sai also able to gank early if that's something that they choose to do. But we'll just have to wait and see. Rek'Sai kind of clearing in an interesting way that started with starting with the Raptors and then going over to the Krugs. So could visit this bottom lane early on in the match here.
Yeah, it would definitely be a big tempo play, catch him off guard. Is going to mean this Fizz is going to get a full clear and get that top side scuttle, which is the exact same, or excuse me, I actually forgot the side swap. So not exactly what we saw from Lotus last time around. They actually interrupted and did not go for the scuttle last time. Fizz could, in theory, do the same, but with Zahen putting so much pressure right now into the Tahm Kench, you'd imagine not really a great opportunity to go and get much presence. As Rek'Sai actually did just kind of go for the recall and now makes their way up to that topside blue, which means the junglers are going to be meeting each other on topside, though Fizz very obviously is going to have a bit of a lead with that much faster clear.
Yeah, interesting choice to clear in the way that he did. I'm not sure if it was because they were considering an early gank bot lane that then didn't come to fruition, or what was going on there. But yeah, Fizz should be the one to be first to the Scuttle Crab, so we'll see if Rek'Sai even wants to make her way over there at all. Because yeah, I mean, actually the Scuttle Crab's just going to be completely gone by the time that gets there. So ward placed. I'm not sure if that's going to end up seeing Fizz or not, but Fizz now looking to potentially gank this top lane early on. I don't know if that's the opportunity though.
No, it looks like they're just going to sit in the top bush and put a little bit of pressure onto the Tahm Kench, make him know that the Fizz is there. And actually, Nubly going to take a little bit of damage. It's going to prevent the recall of Aftermoon, but not too much else. Meanwhile, that bot side, we did see quite a bit of trading going back and forth, and it was very much in favor of Syndicate, as Crispy having to use a pot just to keep themselves in a healthy enough position to sustain in lane. So right now, very back and forth. We do see that level up come through from that blue side bot side. Looks like Rek'Sai is in the area as well. They might try to go for a bit of a gank here, though there is a Fizz in the wings.
Okay, yeah, they are going to try to mess with Fizz in his jungle here. Push him off at the ground, but they can't really do that much. They're also just wasting their own time. This bot lane is missing XP, and they are going to also spot out not important with the ward here. So I don't think that Aftermoon is actually really going to be delayed. He is still sitting on a ward trying to clear this, but can not important really continue trying to contest? He will. Try.
Okay, Alistair goes in. Notably, we do see that smite onto the Gromp, so the Gromp is secured. As we see, not important, just has that tunnel there, but goes in, doesn't really do all that much. Fizz gets the Gromp, a little bit of damage dealt back and forth, but in the end, like you said, both teams just investing a lot of time and not getting too much out of it, except for the fact that Lotus got a little bit of extra CS that they were missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how much they try to invest there in, trying to do something to put this Fizz behind. Once he hits level 6 is when he'll really be able to effectively start to impact these lanes. getting the Chum the Water is available at that point. Still level 5 for now, and I don't think he'll quite get it from this last camp, but I'm not 100% sure. Other than that, though, you know, pretty even here. We can see a little bit of a lead for the Zahen in the top lane, which makes sense. You know, Tom Kench, the tank champion, not super strong early on. You know, bot lane pretty much a wash so far in this one.
Okay.
Forced to ult.
Yeah, Strawberry Moon having to invest that ult just to get away, but is going to be able to do so. Just putting a little bit of pressure on that mid lane as the rest of the team takes that Drake. Syndicate getting off to a little bit of a different start. Obviously let 2 Drakes stack up on the side of Lotus early on last game. Not going to give them that same grace this time around, as that is first Drake to go their way. Next up is Grubs, but no team really has much pressure on that region of the map. Really not a lot of pressure up on top lane in general right now.
Yeah. And that first dragon to go over to Syndicate Sean's fan club. So they'll be able to start the stacking there. You can see how Nubili has taken a lot of damage in these early trades. Needs to be pretty careful. He's not really able to stand right up in the wave now, just kind of trying to use his Q to pick up the minions that he can. So he's in a little bit of a tough position. Not going to be able to pick up that cannon minion, even though he really wanted to. And yeah, you can see how one-sided these trades are from Guargoomba, who does have the Sheen built early on in this one. And yeah, I mean, junglers, level 6 now for Aftermoon, not important, still sitting on that level 5, but we expect it to level up momentarily here. And, you know, I do think that the Fizz will probably try to look, now that he's got his ultimate available, for some kind of gank here pretty soon. But overall, I mean, definitely quieter, I think, in the early game this time. 7 minutes in, no kills so far, about a 300 gold lead for Lotus just off the farming. And they're feeling all right with that.
Yeah, much more of a neutral or a passive game this time around. But you imagine that won't last forever, especially as Eudora continues to get as many flashes out and just constantly at least tease an all-in down towards this bottom side. Notably, I do want to point out that because of this very neutral game so far, Rek'Sai has been able to set up a lot of tunnels. Nubili, are you going to be able to survive this? Is very low, does have the E. Guargoomba does take a lot of damage off that, but still in the lead, but is not going to push it, and is just simply going to take that as reality. Nubili trying to just back away. Meanwhile, Fizz gonna start up on these Grubs. Really no one in the area to contest them, so you'd imagine that's going to be 3 Grubs going over the way of Lotus. Nubili, very low, but it doesn't matter. The play. Zahen falls first.
Wow. I don't know what happened there, but in the end, Nubili is on the opposite side of the turret. I'm not sure if he got his W off, was able to get away with that. He also did expend the flash there, as did Goomba, but really big for him to be able to get that kill 1v1 under the turret when he's so far behind in this matchup. So shout out to Nubili. As we should be able to see the replay in a moment here. And yeah, we can see, the flash forward from Guargoomba trying to get him. But yeah, Nubili, not even the W, he just flashes to the other side of the turret. Guargoomba maybe a little bit overestimating the amount of damage that he would be able to do there. And it does end up costing him his life. So we can see with the build here, it looks like definitely could be a Dusk and Dawn coming through here from the Tom Hench. He started out by building the mini bramble, or by building the bramble vest there, but now he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, Nubili, unfortunately, in a very awkward spot. Do they have the survivability to let Not Important get in the area? No, but the entry from Galio means that despite the fact that the top laner is going to fall, they are going to be able to help clean up. Ahri not able to get up there in time, even with the ultimate. That is going to be a revive from Guargoomba, so it is not going to be all doom and gloom there for Lotus, but definitely going to be a massive win and bounce back from Syndicate Sean's fan club.
yeah, they're doing a nice job of making use of that Galio ultimate early on. Nubly did buy just enough time for Galio to be able to make it up there. As we see fighting in the bot lane at the same time as this replay, but you can see here Nubly just trying to buy as much time as he can, but ultimately Guarguba able to pick up the kill. Luckily, Guarguba is also able to get out of the turret range, though, before getting knocked up by Sean, and ultimately that Zahem passive will be able to keep him back alive. But as we go back to main here, I don't think anybody died.
No, no one died here. It was very sketchy. Actually, both the members of Lotus's bot lane got pretty darn low, but then after Moon made their presence known, almost picked off both of the bot laners for Syndicate, but then in came the Rek'Sai. It really was a tale of two junglers coming into the rescue, and in the end, what was a lot of investment from both sides ended up just being a 0-for-0.
Yeah, and since we were busy in one replay during this bottom lane battle here, we can see another replay now. And yeah, I mean, Eudora doing a nice job of starting off this fight. You can see how low they are, but Shiv's doing a nice job of buying some time for Crispy with the ultimate, and then from there, the rest of the cavalry arrives. Conveyable Cub really, really low. He's never able to get into the backline before he's able to flash away. And now we got more action, though.
Yeah, it's fight after fight after fight as we do see the second Drake fight underway. I'm getting a little bit of the deja vu here, but it's a little bit swapped. The Syndicate are going to make a change of not being all caught up, and that's a huge engage. 2 knocked up. That is going to be Shivs. Oh, never mind. Shivs is not going to fall. The cleanup possibility is into effect. And that is going to be a huge win for the Ahri. It is chaos. Double kills abound for both sides. Up in the top lane, there is a back and forth. But I think Zahen, is going to lose that out. As Sean on the Galio is desperately hunting for this Ahri. No longer has the damage built into the kit to try to secure the Drake. But in the end, that is going to be a Syndicate win across the map, though it is costly themselves.
Yeah, super important that they were able to get that solo kill in the top lane. But as we go back in here, you pointed out this engage. I believe it's Eudora, after he eats the fish, is able to come back around and get a knock up on, I can't tell. Actually, maybe he just got one member and it was Rek'Sai on the other side. But as the rest of this fight kind of plays out, you can see how they're trying to get Strawberry Moon, but he's able to stay alive, do a ton of damage, be able to get his team the team fight, keep his team in the team fight there. But mid lane, they're going at it.
See yet another fight. Yeah, just constant skirmishing here. And Rek'Sai getting hit with the charm. That could be deadly. Might be able to get away. Zahen coming through. Galio with that triumphant entrance is going to be able to give just enough protection and shielding to keep their teammates alive. Very low health bars across the board for Syndicate. And with all that being said, Lotus is going to take that opportunity. They have the damage, they have the health, and they are going to take this second Drake that was not picked up in that last team fight.
They're the ones with the higher health bars, able to get away. Sean's fan club just doing a really nice job of being able to keep their members alive, having members very heavy, conveyable Cub, and then also not important, really, really low under the turret. But between Sean and Eudora just doing a great job of being able to keep members away so that they could not finish those kills. And yeah, I mean, the gold is pretty much even here. It's like a 100 gold advantage for Syndicate Sean's fan club, so pretty much negligible at this point. As these teams, I mean, we had a quiet early part of the game, but ever since then, both these teams keeping their foot on the pedal here in game number 2.
Yeah, and the kill counter doesn't even really give them justice because, like you said, Syndicate have been doing a really good job at desperately keeping their own team members alive. I mean, that last one could have been a bloodbath for the side of Lotus, but just a couple of big decisions from a couple of members of Syndicate's Sean's fan club means that they're able to keep everyone in it. So it's been even more chaotic than the game counter would even match. But with all that being said, the really only big difference between these two sides right now is the fact that Lotus has the grubs, and whoever gets this Rift Herald could get a little bit of a lead, because right now, while there's been pressure on turrets, neither side is particularly close to really securing one, and a lot of these skirmishes have been in the jungle, in the river, so there hasn't been really the opportunity to get a big team fight win and then take a turret off of it. So it would be nice to get it. As we see Aftermoon going in, that ultimate from FaZe is going to be invested, but Nubly is going to be able to not just survive, but is going to be able to survive pretty comfortably.
Yeah, he's able to use that. He does have to use the flash to get away, but yeah, between his W and also the flash, unless they're able to interrupt his W, it is really difficult for them to kill this Tahm Kench. Now, once that first tower goes down in the top lane, then it's a little bit of a different story, but as you can see, there's going to be a fight here.
Big two-man does include Gargoomba, who's very tanky, so is going to not be amazing. We have the Tahm Kench in the background. We have also the Galio with the entry. That's the damage that we were looking to see coming out from Syndicate. Aftermoon falls as well, unable to get the Rifty, as there is just too much pressure from the Alistar. And now, I mean, Sean, gotta give them credit with the zoom in there. They have just been everywhere on this map with that ultimate. And now, since they're all up in the area anyway, they are going to just take this Rift Herald and going to continue to expand their lead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's Sean's fan club here, as we can see in this fight, as Eudora starts it out, does a nice job of engaging the fight. Nubly also just, totally making Crispy not a factor whatsoever in this, able to get them super low, but then you can see Sean going forward, getting the multi-member taunt, able to finish off two of the members there. Strawberry Moon TPing in too little too late, trying to keep himself alive by the time that he's able to get in there. And with that, it does start to amass a little bit of a gold lead for Sean's fan club here. They've got about a 1.3k gold advantage. And so, yeah, I mean, it's looking good for Syndicate Sean's fan club.
And also gets them the Rift Herald, so you'd imagine that's going to be used here relatively soon and will help them get a little bit more gold in their pockets. They do also have the next Drake up in just about a minute. It is the Ocean Drake, and that does mean it's also the Ocean Soul, which is going to give a lot of survivability for whichever team wants to take it. I don't think there's a certain member or a certain champion on either of these rosters that is really going to thrive, but honestly, having the protective president with so many tanks, having that Ocean Soul is never a bad thing. It's just maybe not as good as, say, like the Mountain Soul, for instance. But we do see that coming up here soon, as both teams are kind of posturing now towards that bottom side.
Yeah. And next objective coming up, just 25 seconds on the next dragon, so I expect that to be the next potential for fighting. As you can see, the river kind of being guarded here by Sean's fan club. The scuttle is actually controlled by Lotus, so they do have an idea of what's going on there. They're going to drop the Rift Herald to charge here on this mid lane turret and try to open up the map. I don't think it's going to have quite enough yet. Will not to be able to actually finish the turret. But it buys them a little bit of space and time, as it looks like Not Important is going to start out this dragon. And I don't know that Lotus is even going to try to contest this one. So they're spread across the map, faces all the way on the top side. I think they're just going to let this one go.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is down to the fact that they did not think they would go for the Drake, if they didn't know where Fizz was, but Fizz was spotted by that ward up on top bush. So that does mean that it kind of gives runway for Syndicate to just walk over and take it. So they are now, having used that Rift, he got a little bit of extra gold in their pocket, put a little bit of pressure onto that mid lane, but now also has the lead when it comes to the Drake stacking. So Syndicate doing a really good job of, after that very long neutral game, having a pretty good control, as we see next major objective already up on the field. Baron is going to be crashing into the pit here in the next 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, mean, nobody's going to be starting off this Baron right away, but will become a factor in this game, especially for whatever team is further ahead and able to control the Rift here. And we've just been able to see that Syndicate Sean's fan club has had really good map control over this mid lane wave. They're going to continue that here as 1v1 between the mid laners going down.
Okay, Strawberry Moon, I think there's very little they can do. Okay, he's just gonna pop the flash, but do they have it? No! Sean, unstoppable with the range of the Galio, is able to deal with the RA despite the ultimate being invested. Sean's fan club better be raving after that, especially as that's gonna free up a lot of pressure in mid, and I believe this turret is not long for the world. Nope, it is not. It is gonna be secured, regardless of that fast Sever wave clear.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, that's just kind of an unforced error by Strawberry Moon. You could have just used the ultimate right away to get out. I mean, she still had multiple charges of it remaining, so not really much of an excuse there. I guess just not really expecting how much damage was coming out from Sean, but by the time he's able to get to the second cycle of the abilities, yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like Lotus is not playing at their best right now. Gold lead continuing to slowly trickle up here for Sean's fan club, who is now about 2.5 gold in the lead in this game. They've got the 2 dragons continuing to clear out these waves, and I mean, I don't know what the win condition here. I mean, I guess we know, which is that Lotus, we talked about how they have this composition that ideally should be able to find picks around the map. So that is what they will need to do if they want to get back in this game, because it is not working out for them. These 5v5 team fights, especially as this Galio is now super huge, 5-0-1 for Sean. And he will be there whenever there's a team fight, because his ultimate will allow him to make his way there, even if he doesn't start on that side of the map.
Yeah, like I said, that peel potential, especially from the Galio, but also in the case of the Tom Kench, has just been so crucial for a lot of these past couple team fights. But I mean, you can see it's almost a full 1,000 gold difference between the Ari and Galio right now. 5-0-1, 650 gold bounty onto the Galio as well. Strawberry Moon still just taking damage from Sean, who is in the area. It is starting to get very, very sketchy, and you're absolutely right. We need to start seeing some skirmishes come through from Lotus, because they're trying to take these 5v5s and it's not going their way. Realistically, especially with Sean and having that ultimate available, you more likely need to take 3v1s so that when the Galio finally does make an appearance, it doesn't become a 2v2 and a very difficult fight, especially as, don't know if you noticed, Galio has Dark Seal and is already 10 stacks. So is starting to really become a menace in terms of outright damage as well. As we see wonderful production here. Shout out to our production, making everything look amazing. Splits grain, as there is a lot of pressure on both mid and bottom. Both tier 1s are gone. Might be a fight. They might be able to try to find shibs here.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see how the map is really being choked out by Syndicate Sean's fan club, at the very least on this bottom side of the map. No access to the jungle, no ability to really do anything here. And Aftermoon on this Fizz, Fizz is really a champion that needs to get rolling. If he's not able to pick up kills and get an item advantage, it's difficult for him. And if he's not able to be kind of the first one to throw out his ultimate and start out these fights and find these picks, that is where he's really going to thrive the most. Have not been able to see that from Aftermoon in this game at all. Really, he's tried some ganks into the top lane to varying success. They were able to kill Nubly that one time. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, definitely kind of a struggle for Lotus, and they're just going to start up this Baron. They just need to get something going around the map, and I don't know how much vision there is. If there's any vision here, it doesn't look like there is.
No, at least not from the side of Syndicate. But I mean, the lack of vision is information of itself, as they do get that blue ward down. That's going to give away their location. But yeah, there's just not enough damage. They tried to sneak it away, and the moment there's presence from Sean, they just have to back up, because even in that 1v2, Sean is going to be a very scary threat, especially as they're, 2 levels over Aftermoon. Yeah, definitely scary, as Strawberry Moon, if they are not careful, might be running into a full death ball, as they just say, we don't need the Baron right now, we're just gonna continue to stack Drakes, and it looks like they're gonna get their 3rd one in their pocket.
Yeah, it just left them on the. I mean, trying to get that Baron just left them on the completely wrong side of the map. And so with that,
Okay. Big charm, not important. Very low. Sean, though, in the midst and in the middle, is going to be able to do a lot of damage. They find one on the right side. Sean, very low, though, in a position where they could lose a lot of stacks on that Dark Seal. Yeah, Sean's down. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of protection being missing. Can they help themselves? No, they won't. New Blue just desperately trying to get away. Has to flash over the wall in order to try to survive this, but no, stunned up, charmed. That is going to be an ace and a massive bounce back spot coming out from Lotus.
5-0 when it all looked lost here from Lotus. A huge team fight that they're going to try to, I believe, translate right over into this Baron. And this time it's going to be all about Crispy on the Sivir. Watching this fight, how long is Sivir able to just continually dump out those auto attacks with the W on? Does get knocked up at the beginning of this fight, and so Sean flashes forward, but I believe that Crispy was able to hold the spell shield for that moment, and then you can see from here just kiting back. Awesome job by Aftermoon to be able to block the E from Galio so that they're not able to get back onto Sivir. Shiv's buying more time with the Galio ultimate, and that whole while Crispy is just sitting on the edge. Excellent team fighting here. Conveyable Cub never really able to get into a position to be able to fight well on the Varus here, and now the Baron being taken down for Lotus, but not without paying for it with the lives of 3 of their members there. So yeah, lots of action.
Lots of action. I really think that last fight was maybe a little bit of an overheating, obviously, with the Rex side going in super quickly before the rest of the team is really able to have a say. But they do immediately try to turn it into...
Flipped the gold lead. They are, about 500 gold, something like that, maybe a little bit more. Actually, I guess almost 1,000 gold in the lead for Lotus in what now all of a sudden feels like a really close game. I mean, it definitely felt like Syndicate Sean's fan club was going to run away with this one, but then that 1-5v5 team fight definitely keeping it much closer. They only have the Baron on a couple of their members because of the fact that they lost those members in the fight afterwards. But yeah, I mean, it feels a lot more tense now if you're Syndicate Sean's fan club.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially off of what was essentially just an unforced error there with that Rek'Sai just diving into the back line before the rest of the team was there to support them. But they were able to bounce back, at least try to limit the damage that was done with that follow-up fight. But like you said, a couple of members still have that Baron buff. So we're going to see Lotus just try to continue putting pressure, notably Aftermoon, big engage champion that is going to be a key piece to any one of these next fights, does have that Baron buff available to them. So keep an eye out for them. Meanwhile, Syndicate, knowing that they're now a little bit on the back foot, is just going to slow down the pace again. Kind of a resemblance of what we saw really early, where that neutral game was kept for so long, just trying to steadily build an advantage for one big break. But it looks like Lotus not going to give them the time to do that, as there's a massive invade onto that bottom side jungle.
Yeah, they are sitting here. They've got the vision advantage for Lotus. And 40 seconds on the Dragon, which would be the Ocean Soul for Syndicate Sean's fan club if they're able to get it. So I would imagine Lotus really does not want them to get that. They're trying to use up the last of this Baron. You mentioned how Aftermoon's still holding on to that Baron buff, trying to keep those Baron empowered minions there in the mid lane until the last moment. It's now run out. And yeah, I mean, again, still holding steady for about a 1k gold lead here for Lotus. As we think about setting up for this next fight, it's going to be about, taking down that first member. It seems like whoever's able to take down the first member in the fight is able to kind of snowball things from there as the Dragon does spawn up. Lots of vision over here for the red side as Strawberry Moon just barely going wide on that charm on Not Important, which could have been very important if it did hit. Yep. And, yeah.
Alrighty, a little bit of posturing here from both sides as We see them prepare. Like you said, both teams want this Drake, whether it's the secure soul or to deny it. We get that flank from Sean. Again, missing a lot of their Darksteel sacks. I'm not going to do as much as they did before, but huge engage. We do see that triumphant entrance as they are able to give a little bit of shielding. Sean into that back line. They are all grouped together. That could be disastrous for Lotus, but is there enough damage to follow through? Adora is low. Not important on a killing spree and finds one. In the back line, not important, not able to do enough. And in the end, amongst the chaos, it looks like it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Lotus. It is scrappy, it is sketchy, but they get the win regardless. They continue to expand their gold lead. They deny that soul as well as get a second Drake themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and we can start to see in this team fight how the concerns about lack of damage start to come up here for the side of Syndicate Sean's fan club. As the fight kind of goes on, they jump onto Conveyable Cub. Nubili is able to keep him alive, but without the Varus being able to dish out damage, I mean, they look a little bit lost because Sean's damage is really just going to happen in one big burst. He's not able to provide consistent damage throughout the team fight. So you can see that they start out by coming onto Nubili. Amazing engage from Guargoomba, I believe, catching 3 with the Zahen there. But even though Sean's in the backline there, getting multiple people CC'd up, you can see that, yeah, I mean, they don't really have enough damage into the backline. Once they go in, there's no way out because they are so melee heavy. And so, yeah, with that, it looks difficult for them to win these team fights as we continue to go through this game. They're going to have to rely more on bursting out individual champions because what it is, that 5v5 scenario, they're just not able to find enough damage to take down the full health bars.
Yeah, and notably, one thing that's making it difficult for them, and it has throughout the entire game, is the fact that Zahen has that ability to revive. I mean, we saw there, Zahen did fall. It was technically a 2-for-2, but Zahen comes back towards the late stages of that fight, and because they know he is reviving, they do not push forward to help not important for one moment, which kind of leaves him just isolated into the back line of Lotus. So that revivability coming out and finding so much value as we're seeing Syndicate definitely scrambling a little bit. I mean, notably, one big problem is I think they are still expecting to do as much damage as they used to with Sean, but Sean, as I mentioned, had those 10 Darksteel sacks. So it was a big threat on the board early on, but after that one fight that did not go their way, obviously lost a couple of those stacks, and since then has died another time. So the stacks have almost completely run up, just now down to 4, which means just base from what they were expecting to do, not doing nearly as much. So it feels like they're going and taking these fights with the expectation they're going to do a lot more and then falling a little bit flat.
Yeah. Baron is up again, so lots of vision trying to be put down in that area. There still is a ward in the Baron pit for both teams, so Sean Fan Club will know if and when that's started up, at least for now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that Sean's Fan Club is going to be a little bit shook when it comes to these team fights after these last couple of experiences, because it has not looked good for them, and they're going to have to see how can they get onto Crispy, because especially killing this enemy AD carry, the Sivir, has really been a problem. She's really hard to catch with the Spell Shield and then also with the Bard Ultimate, which has been placed multiple times really well to buy her more time and more space to stay alive. So all eyes for me are going to be on this Sivir in the backline to see if they're going to be able to do anything to take her down, as we see all of Summoner's Rift basically right now.
Alrighty, as we have the fight, it's a 4v4 for the time being. Both top laners are going to be teleporting in Zahen into the pit, but there's just so much damage on the side of Lotus. There is a response Conveyable doing a lot of work, but I mean, we see yet again, Crispy does fall. It's back and forth. It's sketchy. It's risky. They're still trying to get rid of this back line of Syndicate. And finally, we see it break through. Explosive damage to start. Sketchy towards the middle. But in the end, it is a 5-for-1 almost a full ace, and now Lotus are going to start the march to the Nexus. I don't think they're going to get it, but they're going to get pretty darn far.
Yeah, and as we look at this replay, I mean, Crispy does end up going down, but outside of Crispy, all the other members of Lotus able to survive. So checking this one out again, you can see how Sean goes in with that fish on him right away. So even though he ease in, he's just going to get charmed up, taken down really, really quick. And Nubili pretty much gives it everything he's got into this back line to take down Crispy. But then the problem is he's not able to be on the back line to save Conveyable Cub when it's needed. So you can see Conveyable Cub does do a lot of damage, but ultimately Guar Goomba with the revive is able to get into the backline there. So it's kind of like pick your poison here when it comes to how you use the Calm Kench, using it either to kill the enemy AD carry, in which case your AD carry dies, or you stay back there and then the enemy AD carry just, you know, rains down on you forever. So it will be 3 dragons now from each team as Lotus picks this one up, and they have a pretty substantial lead now. They are about 8,000 gold ahead, and I mean, now Syndicate Sean's fan club, they want to keep the pace up by starting this Baron.
They have a lot of damage, at least to be able to deal with this Baron, as it's still the first one, but Eudora is just gone. They're just deleted. Hasn't given them enough time. Yes, it will, but here comes the chase, especially with that Bardo that is just going to condemn Sean and Nubili. Nubili can't get out. Sean Eaton is not going to be able to get away either, and they're going to be chased down, run down, and removed summarily. This Sivir is just melting everyone they come into contact with. Nubili just desperately trying to get away. But I think that's even worse for their side, as with no tier 3s, it is just Nexus's Nexus first fall.
Yeah, Nexus turrets are going to come under fire here, and with just 2 members left, Alistar is going to be alive again in a moment, but I think that should just be it for Lotus. Pretty sure they just should be able to end the game here off the back of that Baron team fight, and they did not want to go quietly into the night. They're going to force us into a game number 3, which is what it's the CCS 2 Classic here, going to the full 3 games.
Yeah, absolutely. And one player I want to bring out, or I kind of want to shout out, is that Zahin. Obviously, Gargoomba operating them. Didn't give a lot of credit, or didn't really shout them out much, but especially towards the late end of that map, they really just had so much survivability. They were constantly diving in and amongst the back line. Obviously, their ability to revive gave them a little bit of a extra push to be a little bit more aggressive, but beyond the survivability, it meant they were constantly keeping that back line of Syndicate distracted. And I know I didn't see at the very end there, but at one point I remember looking at the gold difference at the bottom. I believe it was a 1.5k gold difference between them and Nubili. So while they played a little bit more of a quiet part, Goomba definitely came back. I said in the last game that they looked a little bit flat on the side. They weren't doing a lot of damage, so they're just kind of a big meat shield. This time around, a lot of survivability, but also a lot of impact when it comes to the actual damage being output. So massive changes means we're going game 3, and I don't think there's any other way to end it.
Yeah. Excited to see what teams want to change up in this game number 3. It was such a good start for Syndicate Sean's fan club, almost a better start for them than it was in game 1. But as the game went on, I think we could kind of see some of the issues with their composition, as far as just not having the flexibility in these team fights, or being able to you know, actually fully destroy the other members. So yeah, I mean, we'll see in game number 3. How can these teams adjust, or will Lotus just be able to run away with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we do send it off the break, I do believe our production has some wonderful replays, so we can see how the game kind of shook out. I think we have a couple of the actual team fights to go through, and yeah, okay, it looks like we're just gonna have one, but yeah, it's gonna be this Baron. I mean, Eudora just falls super early. It isolates him, and yeah, they get the 4, but with that massive borrowed ultimate, it puts Sean and Nubly into such an awkward position. We see Ultimate just completely ignore them as well as they go through to just stall up the rest of the team, who really had to make that last second decision of, are they going to let the two that got stuck behind fall and run away, or are they going to try to turn back? And it looks like a little bit of indecision ends up costing them as they try to do both. And that means that they're able to be caught up on and removed with summarily. But with all that being said, we do have one more game to watch. Oh, excuse me, never mind. We got one more wonderful replay. This is where it kind of all went wrong, Elsa.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This was kind of that first big fight of the game where Lotus was able to go 5-4-0, which is pretty crazy, honestly. And I mean, yeah, in this one it was a little bit different because Crispy was just able to stay alive on the back line the entire time. You can see how low some of these members ended up getting, but they're just able to peel for each other really, really well. And I mean, I think that, we talk about Lotus as one of the favorites in this league. They didn't necessarily look like it for a lot of these first two games, but when they're on, you can see how on they are as far as their team fighting. Really, really good coordination. And yeah, that's what we know them for. So hopefully they'll be able to show us more of that in the third game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he said, these are both teams that we expected to be in championship competition, championship talks, top 4 at minimum expectation. So, game 3 was really the only way this one was going to end. But before we get there, we're going to send it over to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Game 3, the decider here for the series between Syndicate and Lotus in just a couple of minutes. Game 3 here for week number 3 matchup against Lotus and Syndicate, Sean's fan club. If you're just now joining us, my name is Soren. Joining me on the desk is Elsa. Elsa, I mean, a lot has changed since game 1. I can see it is dark outside for you. It has been a long series. But on top of that, it started out with a really strong win for Syndicate, going into a really strong win for Lotus, and now everything to play for here in game number 3. I mean, what are you hoping to see coming out for both of these teams to try to close out this series?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that for Syndicate, Sean's fan club, they have to find some kind of change of pace here, because things have kind of gone down. I mean, things started out well in that second game, but then really went downhill with the team composition that they selected. They've got to find some kind of team composition that at least has more range here. I really felt like that ended up hurting them a lot as the game went on there. In game number two, we could kind of see things fall apart. So they're going to have to find maybe something for Sean that can be more impactful later in the game, because we saw how important his Galio was early on. But then as things continued to develop in the game, and as the Galio was not able to one-shot people anymore, it got a lot more difficult for Syndicate Sean and his fan club. So definitely looking for them to try to turn something around in that regard here in game number two. Or
Yeah,
three. Gosh,
absolutely. I
it is
also
late.
yeah, I've been tracking your because I've been watching your window throughout this stream, and I've been tracking it get darker and darker and darker, and now it is dark out fully.
Pitch
But
black
I really
now.
do feel like I really do feel like this series is really built around the damage. I mean, I talked about in game number one, how Gar Goomba really felt kind of just like they were there. A really big raid boss in the sense that they had a lot of health, but really weren't doing all that much in the series to actually do much damage. So they were just kind of a meat shield that wasn't really participating all that much, and Syndicate took advantage of that. Switch over to the next game, and I feel like Syndicate just by overall team composition, bar them having a lack of range, their second problem was just that they didn't do a lot of damage. Sean did well early on, but again, he had those Dark Steel sacks, so he had a little bit of extra damage built in because of the lead that Syndicate were able to build early. But the moment they had that trip up, he lost most of those stacks, and then after that, it just was a rolling ball that you couldn't stop, and then there was no one to really catch up and make up the damage that was lost with those kills. And at the same time, we saw Gargoomba, who swapped over to that Zahen, immediately start doing more damage and felt like a big difference maker. Obviously, was constantly in the background and put separation between those ranged carries, or the ranged carry of Varus, and a lot of the backline or the front line that was supposed to protect him. So damage feels like it has to be the thing that both of these teams consider. I'd imagine Syndicate is going to make the adjustments necessary. I'm also a little worried that they might overcompensate. There's always a chance that they go, okay, we didn't have a lot of damage. We're just going to go full damage this time around, or really try to amplify it and maybe risk some of the tankiness that at least help them get through that early game in game number two.
Yeah, I mean, and we always need to remember here with the Fearless draft, how deep your champion pools are gets more and more important here, because they're going to end up being, they're going to start to be limited with what they have available for them. So yeah, I mean, excited to get into this draft in a moment here and see, what both teams kind of have left in the tank as far as what they are gonna pick. And there you go.
Yeah, speaking of draft already completed, ready for us, as they are already starting to make their way into the server. Again, fearless. So there's already 2 sets that are not going to be available. And actually, I kind of like both these compositions. Lotus staying on that red side to get counterpick. I think Cassante and Ornn is going to be a pretty neutral matchup, though Cassante can be a problem. But there's a lot of damage, a lot of protection, good engage in the form of Shibs' Nautilus. Meanwhile, for the side of Syndicate, a lot more damage built in. The thing that's catching my eye, though, actually, never mind. I'm going crazy. I was thinking of them all in perspective. Wait a second. No, wait. Who is that? Mord mid then, or is that Viego mid?
It's
And
probably going to be
Mord?
Mord mid. I'm imagining it's going to be Mord mid. It's something that Sean played in the first week when they were on
Okay,
stream.
then yeah.
So yeah, otherwise, I mean, it would be an interesting change up to see Viego mid, but I don't think that we're going to see that. One thing to point out here once again is that Sean's fan club has chosen a total of 1 range champion once again, with the Jinx. So they're definitely not increasing their range. So I mean, I would be happy to be wrong about that being an issue in their team fights. Maybe a little bit different against this enemy composition. But yeah, I mean, it's once again going to be Jinx as the one ranged carry champion, and so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do to keep her alive. Braum is going to be the main one, charged with that task. But yeah, I mean, beyond him, should be interesting to see if Conveyable Cub is just going to get burned down there in the backline between the Nautilus, Rumble dropping the ultimate back there, Cassante being able to, use his ultimate to potentially get on top of the Jinx. So it's going to be, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last about the kind of the protect the president composition last time. This strikes me as even more of that, I think, this time, because Nubly this time will not go for any sort of damage items on Ornn. It's just going to be a straight up tank in comparison to the Tom Kench, which was a Dusk and Dawn Tom Kench. And so they're going to be all about trying to protect this Jinx. On the other hand, once Jinx gets going in the team fights, yeah, I mean, we can take a look at as we take a look at these team compositions. Like once Jinx does get excited, then she has a lot more ability to kind of play out these team fights in a more explosive way than the Varus was able to. So, once they can get one kill rolling, actually, they've got multiple champions on that theme here from Syndicate Sean's fan club, both the Jinx as well as the Viego. Once they can start to pick up a reset, that is going to be really, really huge here for Sean's fan club, getting that first kill, being able to pick up the resets and going from there.
Yeah, I will say I do agree. This does feel still along the veins of a protective president composition. However, I do like this one a lot better because even if Ornn does build full tank, Braum is going to be the one primarily in charge of protecting this Jinx, and I think just having the one really, really defensive minded protector and peeler for your ADC, your one range carry, is probably a lot better than what they had before when kind of everyone had to chip in and do it. I mean, we saw many times they tried to jump in onto Conveyable and like 2 or 3 people stay back to try to keep Conveyable alive on the Varus. But I think with Braum, they'll still be able to do that without having to invest so many resources. And on top of that, even if Ornn does not build damage, he does still do pretty good amount of damage. The joke is he's the best tank assassin in the game. But also, there's just going to be more base damage because of the presence of that Viego, as well as Mord, who usually builds a little bit more AP items. So there's going to be more damage baked into this composition on just base level, which I think is going to do them a lot of good, but also kind of keep the theme that they wanted to keep going into that second game.
Yeah. I mean, if we take a look at the Lotus team composition as well here, got some interesting champions here. I mean, Rumble Jungle is something that is not unheard of, but definitely unusual. So Aftermoon picking up another kind of non-traditional AP jungler here, and then also Strawberry Moon with this Akshan mid, a second AP or AD rather, kind of damage dealer alongside a Crispy on this Aphelios. Should be interesting to see what they can set up. Akshan, you think of it as a champion that if he gets fed enough, can have a lot of burst damage, not as much of a sustained, damage throughout the team fight kind of AD carry champion, but also very much able to keep himself safe from ganks as well. So can be a pretty relaxed laner early on if the jungler does come in. So I'm just excited to see game 3. Everything's on the line here. Which team will be able to take the advantage?
Yeah, I mean that composition I do actually like. Notably, Strawberry Moon, like you said, on the auction. This is the first time we're going to see them on a non-AP champion so far this series. So a little bit of change up in that mid lane, but like you said, we are going to have to wait and see exactly what happens on the Rift. Spectator delay is already ticking down, but we're going to set it over to a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to be in the deciding match to see who's going to take home this week 3 matchup. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. 2 games down, everything to play for. 2 top-level competitive teams who are looking to be in that conversation to win the whole darn thing, wanting to make a statement here. We have Syndicate looking to take down a very strong Lotus side who took down another contender in Dorado Iota just last week. Both teams desperately want this, as we see very early aggression, maybe?
Yeah,
Oh,
5-stack
no,
here
I
at
don't think they
level
have the
1.
vision.
They've got the Braum.
Okay, stun. Shibs takes a little bit of damage. Trades come
don't
through.
have it.
Skirmish ends with just a little bit of damage back and forth, but very clearly a difference in mentality from games 1 and 2, Elsa.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really see a lot of 5 member stacks here at level 1 now in season 20 in the current season, just because the minions come so quickly. And you can see the reason why a little bit here with Nubali, who's going to be a little bit late to top lane. Doesn't really matter that much in this tank v tank matchup, but you know, the only thing that ends up happening is that Shib's taking a decent amount of damage. He will have to burn one of the health pots early, so we can take a look at or we can kind of keep an eye on that bot lane to see if that ends up affecting the matchup very much one way or the other here. But for these bot lanes, both of the 80 carries are really just trying to scale through this anyways. So if the supports choose not to engage, probably won't mean too much here. But yeah, I mean, I anticipate this to probably be amongst the quieter lane phases that we've had in this series, if not the quietest in the early game. Both of these junglers would really like to get their level 6 before they become super involved on the map. And outside of that, you know, we got the tank v tank matchup in the top lane, and we've also got the you know, two kind of scaling carries in the bot lane. So I don't imagine that there'll be a ton of action early on in this one. It is interesting how Aftermoon, how low you go in the jungle. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but how low you go in the jungle as Rumble Jungle here. He will back off after killing those first 3 camps.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we have to take into account is his mid lane, because Strawberry Moon does have the range advantage, but we see Sean punishing Strawberry. He just pushed up maybe a little bit too far, but you'd imagine that's going to be a rarity, at least early on. Notably, another, you know, big team member here, the Mordekaiser, who's going to want to wait to do a lot until they have their ultimate, because man, having that domain is just super strong, and being able to isolate individual fights across the map.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we're just barely 3 minutes in here, but both teams just trying to farm out as best as they can. First dragon coming up, not for a couple more minutes here. I expect that once these junglers do hit level 6, that's when we will start to see more action, as top laners are battling it out. But you know, both Viego and Rumble really wanting to get access to their ultimates before they do anything too serious, but not important, will be spotted on this jungle invade by the ward he walks into, and probably going to be taking the first recall of the game, it looks like, for the jungler of Sean's fan club.
Yeah, Rumble Jungle just a little bit slow on the take, means they're going to lose that bottom side scuttle, but because they spot the Viego down towards bot, it means Aftermoon is just going to make their way up towards that top side and take the top side scuttle instead. Pop that fruit as well and see that the recall has already come through from not important, and spotted them on the top side. So this Cassante is going to have to play a little bit more careful.
Oh!
But in the mid lane, solo bolo kill. Sean is able to get the kill before level 6, mind you. And Aftermoon just kind of has to sit there and watch as that W shielding from the Mord is just too much to overcome.
Yeah, and we'll see how it happens here. You can see one turret shot taken from Strawberry Moon. Sean able to use his E to pull him back into range, and then I expect that we probably just saw a flash Q here at some point onto Strawberry Moon, who did not have the E. Oh, it's Q flash, actually. I didn't even know that you could do that, but you can. And yeah, kind of a tricky move there from Sean, kind of displaying his mastery on this Mordekaiser mid, which is not something that you would be typically used to going against if you're Strawberry Moon. But we saw Sean playing this in the first series on CCS, also playing it again here, and now going to bring him into the Death Realm. He's got this kill, yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very scary if you are Lotus. That is 2 early kills going over to the Mordekaiser, and you might be getting a little bit of flashbacks to game number 2. But I mean, just really good play. Gets him already down to half health, knows that they have the damage in order to secure that pick, and they just pop the Death Realm to make sure that there's no means of them to escape back to the safety of their jungle or to under the turret. Really clean play coming up from Sean.
Yeah, again, there's a reason why it's his fan club here, playing really, really well, trying to carry his team in this 3rd game of the series that is obviously going to matter the most here. And yeah, I mean, it just, so far it just seems like more of a knowledge of matchup and kind of mastery of champion situation early on for Sean's fan club. Top lane, love to see a couple of tanks beaten down on each other. Guargoomba is actually pretty low, but I don't think he's in range for Nubali to be able to finish it. Nubali, though, look at the CS. He's like 20 CS down. So even though the trading has been pretty even, yeah, Ornn has definitely struggled to pick up the farm in comparison to Guargoomba early in this game.
Ooh, Conveyable Cub. Gonna take a little bit of damage there. Not quite enough to warrant a pick quite yet, as Eudora tries to make their way down. Has to pop the shield to survive. But now everyone's moving in. Eudora just not under the protection of the turret. Yeah, but it doesn't matter as they get him low enough. But they do find the trade, and that's going to go right over to Conveyable Cub, who gets that pick. So it's a 1-for-1 so far. They keep trying to push on as they have the wave. Conveyable Cub, can you get something more? There we go. No, but Crispy's gonna die too. That's a 2-for-2 in the end. Both kills going over to Conveyable Cub.
Yeah. So Conveyable Cub, now 2-1-0 after that. So I mean, it actually feels pretty good for the Jinx. She did lose a decently large wave, which is the reason why they wanted to go for that dive, is because it was kind of a better trade for them as far as denying those minions away. But overall, I mean, you're not going to complain about your Jinx getting resources early on into this game. Still trying to work on her first item here. And, dive under the turret.
Oh, Guargoomba. Oh, very similar situation to what we saw in game number 1. But Guargoomba says, no, not happening again. And gets out with a sliver of health. But that's still enough to keep them up. As a huge play to kind of just fortify what we already know to believe up on that top side as we get a bit of a replay down on bot side.
Yeah, and so you can see, I mean, once they went under for that first kill, it seemed pretty clear that Aftermoon would end up dying. Nice flash away from Conveyable Cub to not get hit by the Nautilus Q, but then it was just a matter of time here before he got killed. Interesting that Shivs did not take the aggro first, because it seems like that probably would have been the ideal plan. They do end up getting the kill either way, but maybe could have kept Crispy on the map to be able to get more another plate off of that turret or so. But overall, as far as the kills, it was all right, and it went to Aphelios. So that's really the most important thing, is that they were able to secure that kill for their AD carry. But yeah, both bot laners should be pretty powerful once we get to the team fight stage. Of course, with Jinx, you're really trying to get to like 3 items before you're really on at the place where you want to be. But yeah, I mean, exciting stuff so far here. 9 minutes in.
Yeah, notably pretty quiet, both from the junglers, both in the sense of they haven't been doing a lot in terms of ganking, but also the fact that we do have both major jungle objectives currently available, both the Grubs and First Strike is Mountain Drake, which I think both teams would appreciate a little bit of extra tankiness that could help both the Ornn and the Cassante notably. And it does look like it's finally going to get started. Not Important's going to be the one to make that happen. Meanwhile, Rumble up towards the top, so it's probably just going to be a trade for trade. Don't know quite who's going to expect to get more out of it. I actually think maybe Syndicate, mostly because it's going to give a little bit of extra tankiness, which is going to help out the Ornn with that Cassante, who is very quickly becoming a problem up in top side.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of a problem, you can see how much of a problem Sean is for Strawberry Moon, who has fallen about 16 CS behind in this game, but just cannot even think about approaching Sean without just getting totally walloped here. And so that is a little bit of an issue, and Sean should be able to take, one member to the Death Realm in any given team fight and just totally eliminate them out, whether that ends up being Strawberry Moon, whether that ends up being Crispy, is going to depend on the situation, but that's going to be something to track in these team fights that should be super, super important as we get into more of these kind of larger 5v5 team fights at this one.
Absolutely. See down on bot side. Obviously, with that Drake secured, it does mean that we are seeing these junglers kind of go back to their regular clear. We do see a bit of an engage come through. Shibs making their way in, but Eudor is able to keep a lot of protection for Conveyable. The pressure's still on them, however. They have been pushed back, but there's just not enough of a wave for Crispy and Shibs to really capitalize on.
Yeah, pretty much just an even trade there. Heal was used out from a Eudora, but traded that basically for the Ghost from Crispy. But it does look like Aftermoon maybe trying to set up in the bush for some kind of gank here in the bot lane. They've got the turret pushed up, so they should have vision. So he is, looks like everybody's just going to recall. So never mind. Just,
yeah, I mean,
still very slow.
Yeah, we talked about it, and you really were the one to kind of spearhead it, that this was going to be one of those slower paced games. And while there has been a couple of moments of excitement, it has been a relatively slow. Besides the skirmish on top, the skirmish in mid, and that one dive on bot, there's not been too much. Both these junglers are just looking to just kind of build up a lead in their own right and get a little bit of gold in their pocket. We might finally see something here as non-important and Aftermoon are both looking to fight for the scuttle. Not too surprised, as they're going to want vision for this possible next Drake. But now we have supports moving up, and both sides, it looks like they're just going to be happy to handshake away. No, Sean coming in from the side is going to get that big pull onto Aftermoon. It is going to pull out the ultimate, but it does not matter. And Sean once more, they're hungry. They have the numbers. They don't have the wave, but it doesn't matter when you have the reset, which means even the Viego who's tanking is able to get out for free. That is a huge pickup for Syndicate Sean's fan club.
Yeah, and you could see Sean coming down here again. He's really just able to pick a target and from there make it really, really impossible for them to do anything as he takes Aftermoon to the Death Realm. You can see that isolated Q just doing a ton of damage. Sean super, super strong with the Rift Maker already completed here, and then they're able to get the second pick and get out alive as well. So, I mean, looking definitely very good here for Syndicate Sean's fan club. They're going to have to find a way to deal with this Mordekaiser and make their mid laner useful, which was sort of the issue that they had in that first game as well, right? Like that Orianna really, really struggled to actually find usefulness in the team fight. Ari was for a little bit in the second game, but then in that big 5v5 team fight came back a little bit more. So how can they find the angles for Strawberry Moon to be able to affect this game? He doesn't have the same, kind of CC to affect it like he did on the Ari, and has just been super, super pushed back in this mid lane.
Yeah, and notably, I think prioritization there was a little bit off in that team fight. I mean, we saw both Shibs and Crispy caught into that, or Shibs and Aftermoon, excuse me, Aftermoon. My geez, it's getting late. We're both kind of caught up in Sean, who was just pushing through, and we saw Aftermoon immediately flash the Q, which is smart because it's blocking a lot of damage, but that meant they were susceptible to that drag back, and because we saw Shibs tank the Q, but then flash the drag, it means that Aftermoon could not get away and then did not have any protection once they got dragged back to Sean and put him in a very awkward position. So maybe a little bit of miscommunication there, misprioritization on how to handle the Mordekaiser ends up costing them. And we do see Aftermoon trying to invest a lot, and with the Akshan from downtown, that is going to be the jungler gone, but it doesn't look like it's deterring Syndicate at all, as they're going to go hunting. They are going to be able to find Shibs. I mean, it's a 1-for-1, but without the jungler, this becomes really sketchy, but I don't think it really matters. They're going to try for it anyway, and unknowns to them, it's the right call as the jungler backing away. Rumble going to go for that recall.
Yeah, they just have too much control over the entrances to the dragon there. For Aftermoon to be able to make his way in. But Crispy could be in a little bit of a tough spot here. He's going to get picked up by the Flame Chompers. I don't know if they have enough damage to finish him. It doesn't look like they will, as we're going to go into the replay there of not important. Just getting taken down. It's interesting how much long-range damage there is there between the Akshan and then also the Equalizer from the Rumble. So overall just a 1-for-1 trade, but the dragon also kind of being that additional prize for Sean's fan club.
Yeah, absolutely. And notably, one interesting thing is the fact, despite the fact that 3-0-2 for Sean, as well as a pretty substantial 20 CS lead, still only a couple hundred gold ahead of the Akshan, so it's not an insurmountable position, but definitely going to be a difficult one. Tier 1 turret up on top side, though, was lost, as well as the tier 1 on mid for Syndicate. So they're losing a little bit of control of map awareness. However, they seem to be a little bit more in control, despite actually being down in gold overall.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that gold lead is in the hands of, Cassante. So that's going to be a big part of it as next team fight.
Okay. Big pull. The reverse drag from Sean is just going to doom. Look at the damage that Sean is doing. Has to be careful. Does have Dark Seal. Cannot fall and have a risk of last map's deja vu. But in the end, really good dive. Really good play, as that's another 3 kills going over to Syndicate. And man, Syndicate's looking a lot better this time around. They are looking to keep control of this game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can just see how far ahead Sean is in this game and how dominant he's able to be here. Initially, just, you know, feeling confident to flash forward. Huge shield that he's able to pick up with his W there. And then he's just able to, I mean, look at how many turret shots he takes. He just doesn't really care. They're taking shot over shot. He must have taken 4 turret shots at least. But it doesn't really matter because he's just getting so much health back with his healing. As Goomba, not going to look for the 1v1 there, but was maybe interested if Nucleus was going to stay in that area. But now the gold lead flipped towards Sean Fan Club. Oh! Not for long.
Yeah, Sean just tries to take the 2v1 and does not go. Almost was able to get the Akshan, which could have been really good and may have been able to help them out, but fortunately just does not have enough shielding to survive the damage from both. That's going to cost them this tier 1 in the bot side, but not important. It's also going to make their parents know. You got to chase them down. The flash is going to keep the Akshan alive.
Yes. Their trade flashes there. I couldn't see if they actually finished or not. So yeah, here's Sean. He's going to get exhausted up by Strawberry Moon, which is really the most critical part of this. And they're just kind of able to kite him out after that. So Sean going down. I mean, you pointed out before, Soren, how the Dark Seal stacks were an important factor. So you will lose some of those. But yeah, I mean, the gold now over to the side of Lotus, but I mean, it's just about a 400 gold difference, so it's a really close game. This is our closest game yet as far as the gold really not swinging very far from one side or the other for yet whatsoever in this game.
Yeah, I will say notably, I don't think the Dark Seal is as big of a factor this time around, but I mean, actually, I say that. Look at the jump in gold that just went into the auction's pockets. That is now what, almost 1,000, if not over 1,000 gold difference now for this mid lane difference. That's a big jump, but notably the difference in actual damage being dealt, I don't think is going to be all that great. I mean, dropping down from like 10 to 4 in the last game was where it really was a problem. I think this time it jumped from 6 to 2, if I remember correctly. So it's still not great, but it's not like they just got completely undercut like they did in game number 2. Sean still should be able to output just still more damage than before. But we do see Strawberry Moon might be able to get a nasty little flank here. Dragged in, Shib's going to get that ultimate pop for the auction. It's going to do a little bit of damage, but not enough to really make a difference as they're going to retreat. And there, Nasher's up. TP coming in. It looks like Syndicate wants to take this fight. They are not backing away. That finds 3 members. Shibs is going to be the member to fall first. We do see that top laner, Cassante. Cassante's just taking no damage. Cassante's in the middle of all of them and still has a quarter. Finally starting to be melted down. We do have the Rift Herald drop. Cassante's still alive, getting 3 members' attention, but the Mordekaiser still has enough damage to actually deal with the back line. Huge rocket coming out from the Jinx to clean it up. That is an ace for Syndicate.
And it's a 5-0 as well, just like what Lotus did to them in that first huge team fight of game number 2. This time it's Sean's fan club who's able to find the perfect team fight for them. First of all, we can see how the equalizer drops in a position that really does not hit anyone for any substantial amount of time. So that's one big cooldown that's burned right away. And then Nubili is just really easily able to use the Ornn ultimate to follow up after that. And, you know, with Sean coming in, able to, you know, and leading the pack, it's just rough. He's able to ult Strawberry Moon after he lands that grab in. And yeah, I mean, from there, I mean, you pointed out how Guargubo was doing everything that he possibly can, but he was just one Cassante against about 3 to 4 members at a time, and it's just never going to be enough to, you know, make the difference in the backline when the rest of the team is dead. So Baron is the prize for the side of Sean's fan club, taking that one down. They ballooned to almost a 5,000 gold lead after that. And yeah. We're going to take our reset. Remember, Syndicate Sean's fan club has also been stacking up these dragons. They got the Wind Dragon as well. So now one more Wind Dragon coming up in another 4.5 minutes, which would be the soul for Sean's fan club. They're feeling pumped up. Maybe trying to catch out Cassante here if they can. I'm not sure if they know he's here or not. They do now.
They do now. I don't know if they have the means to get there.
Yeah, there's a turret in
tier
the
1
way.
is still up. Actually, no, because they get slowed up by the Ornn. That might be enough. Equalizer coming out to try to equal the equation. Don't know if they're going to be able to. Oh, huge drag from Sean, who's on a rampage. Very quietly, by the way, got a quad in the last fight, which means they're back up to 10 Darksteel sacks. They are going crazy, and Viego is able to get the kill out to Cassante as well, get that reset, and now Syndicate are rolling along. They're going to take that tier 1 up on top side. They're going to continue that march. It's going to, no, I think they're going to stop that tier 2 from falling in mid, so it's not even going to cost them that tier 2.
Yeah, now they're just really kind of flexing their muscles here as they want to keep it going.
That's both. That's both of them. Crispy having to play that safe, as that is a lot of damage. But we've seen this before. But no, Sean is a menace to society and is just running them down. And the rope from Strawberry Moon makes them go into the wall so they can't get away. Sean, an absolute menace, now at 11.6 thousand gold. Almost a 3,000 difference over the auction, and now the siege is in effect. Baron buff still active. Members down, stunned up on the top side. Viego reset. It might just be over. It might be done and dusted. That is going to be the death nail as we see After Moon having to retreat to the fountain. Last turret standing is not going to be standing for long. Nexus to follow suit. They're chasing them into the fountain. And Syndicate, despite being the underdogs coming in, are going to upset Lotus.
Wow. Awesome end to the game here for Syndicate Sean fan club, who were so definitive there. And I mean, it was really Sean himself throughout this entire game, just being really, really dominant, able to win the lane 1v1, translating that, and just landing E after E after E in the team fights, which was so important for them to be able to take this game and ultimately this series. So, I mean, just very impressive stuff from Syndicate Sean's fan club, and I'm sure that they are feeling pumped up after that one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it. This is a Lotus team that took down Dorado Iota, who is consistently seen as one of the top teams just last week. This was going to be possibly the moment Lotus goes, "We are the best in the league. We are the best in the competition right now." But unfortunately, Syndicate comes to spoil the party, and I mean, game three, it was close, it felt like, until it was not. The moment Syndicate really started to get moving, they were a train that was run away and just could not be stopped. And Lotus really struggled to deal with, particularly Sean. Like you said, it really did feel like Sean was the spearhead for that roster. And yeah, that Mordekaiser was the move, was able to do just as much damage, but more baked in and not as reliant on those individual items. So even when they did have those small misplays, Sean was able to continue to have a lot of say and still output so much damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, and I mean, like you said, I mean, this is really, I mean, Lotus was really one of the favorites coming in for this entire tournament. They won the lock-in, but they were not able to win this game tonight against Syndicate Sean's fan club. So amazing job for them, and I think that we'll have an interview hopefully here with one of their members in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we're going to send it over to a quick break so we can get that interview set up. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Alrighty, everyone, we have our interviews prepared with us. We have Sean and Eudora, the mid laner and the support for Syndicate Sean's fan club. General question for both of you. Obviously, that is a massive win for you guys early on in this competition. How do you feel after a series like that?
Do you want me to start or?
You can start.
Okay. Obviously it feels like amazing. Like coming into the season, we knew Lotus was like a really good team. Like I'm pretty sure all of their players like play in like M100 leagues. So, yeah, sorry. Like we knew they were a really good team. All their players are like M100 players. So we knew this was going to be like a big match for us. Yeah, and I'm really glad that we came out on top.
Yeah, well, and congratulations on the win. Curious for either one of you. I mean, Eudora, you haven't spoken yet. Just curious, so I'll ask you. You
Mhm.
said that Lotus is a formidable opponent coming into this. How do you prepare? Is there preparation that's different, like versus for draft or for in game? Like when you're gonna go against an opponent like this, versus some of the other teams that you view as less strong. Like what goes into preparation for any given week for you all?
I don't think we're a team that like really emphasizes on doing draft prep prior to our series. I think we kind of like sometimes just go on the fly, like before we start our series, we like open up like their multi and kind of check out like what champions they're good at, what are their pocket picks, and like kind of going over what they played in the past weeks in this league. I know it's early in the season, but we do have like data from like previous match history of what they're playing. So we kind of like get a good idea and like a basic game plan going of how we want to play the series. And that's how we kind of prep.
Makes sense. And so, just a little bit more background about your team. I mean, Sean, you are from a different name. You've been a champion in this league, but now you're with like a different organization here. Why is it Syndicate Sean's fan club? What is the lore behind this?
So I mean, before I was with Optimal, right, esports, I think, and I think the org like low key kind of died. So I just joined a couple of different like teams, and then I ended up on Syndicate. And then I think it was in 2024 where me and the jungler lost. We created a team, and then for I think it was Titan. Yeah, it was Titan Conk. Or it was there was a couple leagues as well. I think we participated in a couple leagues. And then we like one thing that I always struggled with was coming up with a team name. So I just threw that out there for fun, and then lost. Like the captain just like actually applied to like different leagues with that name, and then we ended up having a pretty cool logo drawn up as well. So now it's kind of just there, you know.
Awesome. Love to know it
Yeah.
for sure.
I love to know a little bit of the lore. We're not going to hold you guys up too long because we know it is getting late. So I have final question for you, and it's for both of you. Love a little bit of drama, but also love to give opportunities for you to shout out your own teammates and possibly your fans and people at home. So I'm just going to give you both the floor. If you want to shout anyone out, you're more than welcome to. If you want to call anyone out, you're also more than welcome to.
Shout out to my teammates. Shout out to my IRL friends if they're still watching the stream. Yeah, shout out to you guys for doing this. Really cool. All the content that CCS has, super cool.
Yeah, I also agree with what Sean said. I want to shout out like everyone on the team. I want to shout out Cub. He's been a really great ADC. I know he kind of like mentioned me in the content piece, so I agree with what he said. He's also a very good ADC player, and I just wanted to shout out our coach for helping us draft. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing how you and your team continue as the weeks progress and as we get later and later into this competition. We expect to see you up at the top of that table. But with that being said, I believe that's pretty much what we've got for you all tonight. Elsa, any final thoughts before we send it home?
No, I just appreciate everybody tuning in. We love having everybody here on CCS 2, CCS 1, whatever stream of your choice. And yeah, we'll see you all next week.
Absolutely. Massive shout out to producers, Mr. Fantastic, as well as Romeo, our observers, and everyone else who makes everything on screen happen and all that magic. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Have a good one, everyone.